fleets. Oh, well, whoops. That everyone. Well, it is. It is.
You're really quiet, by the way.
Am I? Oh, hang on. Let me see if I can fix that. That might be Discord doing its thing again. 1 second. No, that's the right one. Let me just check something real quick. I can fix this. I can fix. I can genuinely. You might. No, you might have me turned down. Am I really quiet for everyone
Oh,
else?
I already checked that.
Am I really quiet for everyone else in the audience? Please,
Yep.
just speak up now.
You are, Flint.
Some people saying I'm good, but not overly quiet compared to normal. All right. Let me just quickly. There we go. That's what I want. Thank you very much. No. No, that's not what I want. Ah, there we go. There we are. There we go. Ah, brilliant. Fantastic.
Alright.
Good. All right. Welcome. Welcome. Everyone, to Fleet's Random Ramblings. Alternate History Edition. Yes, first one of these for a while. Seeing in the new year in style. So, an awful lot of questions were asked between the announcement at 12:47 and the beginning. I will rapid fire some of the ones that can be answered in one sentence. Germany waits until the Kriegsmarine is ready. They go bankrupt. World War I, Germany convinces Mexico to join an alliance. Mexico gets slapped. World War I, Lusitania doesn't get sunk. Unrestricted warfare continues until something that pisses off the Americans does get sunk, and then it's cancelled again as usual. Argentina becomes a little more active, the Fourth Reich. They get slapped down by everyone around them the same way Uruguay did when they tried to do that in the middle of the 19th century. Let's see. What if the US used nukes in Korea like MacArthur wanted? Lots more nukes being used during the Cold War as they're seen as something you can use in regional conflicts.
And maybe a glowing Kiev. I mean,
Possibly. What if the USSR didn't invade Afghanistan? Hard to say. The USSR could probably be still around today in some form of decrepit state, or it might have still collapsed. Hard to say.
would it collapsed?
If the USSR successfully takes Afghanistan, then they still collapse anyway. Yeah, and then the moment the USSR collapses, the Afghanistan problem starts up again, and no, just what if Iran never fell in the 1979 revolution? Iran remains a slightly authoritarian, but very much Western aligned state, and we don't have nearly as much trouble in the Middle East as we do nowadays. Not touching that one with a 10-foot pole.
What is it?
It's about Israel-Palestine not being so messy after World War II. I'm not touching that. Not touching that.
The collapse of the
Yeah, I don't think the 10-foot pole would be sufficient for not touching it.
Like I say, I'm just very quickly working through a lot of these that can have one-word answers. Berlin Alley fails.
You're burning through a lot of questions here, though.
Yeah, like because a lot of them were asked by one person, so it's not fair to everyone else.
If you remember, they also said though to use them in case there's a lull where there's not many questions being asked.
Yeah, I know.
You're burning resources here.
I've not answered all the questions. I've left some. Okay, that's alright. That's right. Baltic Fleet loses the Battle of Dogger Bank. I'm not sure how they can. Torpedo boat. The fishing vessels aren't carrying anything that can damage them. Sailing in the Baltic Fleet, Japan wasn't much of a clusterfuck as it was. They still lose at Tsushima, maybe not. If they lose at Tsushima, same outcome. If they don't lose at Tsushima, the war's lost anyway. Russia just has a fleet in the Far East now.
No, I would contest that.
No, there's nothing like Port Arthur's fallen. Manchuria is under Japanese occupation. the Russians winning Tsushima cannot at this point win them the war. If Russia's going to win the Russo-Japanese War, they have to win the earlier naval actions when the first Pacific Squadron still exists.
But the Russians at this point have got their shit together on land, and they're starting to make gains on land.
The problem is though, it's Japan holds the key. We'll have to
But a
discuss
potential victory at Tsushima might inspire more morale, and they might try and keep fighting longer because of it.
And it's also a
Whereas in
case of
now we just lost everything.
if they've taken the Japanese fleet out, which means they can interdict, and Japan's main supply producers are still on the mainland.
True,
Japan.
but I don't think they'd get the entirety of the Japanese fleet, and the Japanese haven't brought. Sorry, the USSR hasn't brought the majority of its armored fast cruisers with it since they were out in the Far East already. So the Japanese can just convoy supplies to the mainland under cruiser protection, and if the Russians want to sail out with their battleships every time, which they're not going to want to, plus operating out of Vladivostok, they're much further away. So, yeah, I still think it's a. So, let's start.
It also
with...
comes an issue. Okay.
We'll get back to that if we run out of questions. All right. So, first things first. I think we all know how this is going to end, but I will read it out regardless. Your typical gunnery officer asks: alt history. What if FDR got couped in 1933 by the fascist faction in the US? The US then goes into being one of the largest fascist countries in the Western Hemisphere. How would the world look like in pre-World War II, and how would the world look like during World War II? The coup plot almost happened. Yeah, you coup the government in Washington into fascism. Congratulations, Second American Civil War. Because you really think the rest of the US is just going to sit down and go, yep, we're fascist now, our democratic government that we value has been overthrown.
Well, it wouldn't be a second civil war, though. It would just be get counter-couped, noob.
Yeah.
I have popular support and the army on my side.
Basically, yeah. The business coup was funded entirely by private money, and basically none of the military are in on it. Not the Navy, not the Army, not even the United States Army Air Corps. And without the support of the military,
the other
you've also
potential scenario I could see with that
you've also just overthrown
is the U.S. tries to turn around and invade Canada, which I don't think would go particularly well for them.
Especially not in the post-coup chaos, and also in an environment where the British just go, hey, if you actually fight against your government, we'll just restore the democratically elected leaders. Cue the entirety of the US just rising up.
Well, because it wouldn't be a civil war, it would be a case of counter-coup.
Yeah.
Because a coup for a civil war to happen, one side does need popular support or control of the army.
Which
the corporates had neither.
Yeah.
I mean, if the other possible scenario I could see is if they try and annex Mexico. And Mexico would have a lot less international support than Canada would, because Canada means you're getting the empire involved.
I mean, for the coup to survive, if America had annexed Mexico, which was a banana republic-like, but that didn't.
No, even then that's not. There's no way there's no way the coup survives more than a day in power.
Yeah, it gets, at best for the coup, you have the KGB's coup in the 90s in USSR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they had the support of a small percentage of the army, and it didn't work. Because the rest of the army
National Guard.
Yeah, because the rest of the army just went, nope, the people have spoken, and since we're made up of the people, and most of us have families in the people, and they want the USSR to end, no, fuck you.
Yes, it's the images of guards armored BTRs in the barricades in Moscow.
Ethel Truck asks, would Pykrete have been useful for making fleets of smaller support vessels for Cold War theatres? The whole thing with Pykrete is that it made it possible to build a large ship in a reasonable amount of time. For smaller vessels, you just use normal steel, because it's actually quicker and easier.
And probably also just more effective as well. Like, everyone knows how to work with steel and such. Not everyone knows how to use Pykrete.
Yeah, Pykrete would be the opposite, wasn't it? Where it's really easy to build really large because it's already buoyant.
Yes, that's the thing. That's why Pykrete was chosen for Habakkuk.
Yeah.
Because you
I mean,
can't
the
build
only
a
other
stupidly
project I could see feasibly using Pykrete is sort of like what was proposed to be that Habakkuk project could have been used for in the post-war years, where it's literally just a mid-Atlantic refueling spot for airplanes going to and fro for the civilian passenger lines.
Because here's a question.
But that's about it.
Do you think there would be use? Because I remember reading about a proposed Pykrete built bridge between Alaska and the USSR.
Which...
Yeah, I like...
Pykrete...
I mean,
don't-
then you'd run into problems with continental drift and also the various currents trying to push it wherever it wants to, and that's a lot of surface area to push against.
Yeah.
So structurally, I doubt that would work.
You're also blocking the Northwest Passage, which some ships do use.
Okay. It's just a cool proposal I
Yeah,
found.
really, about the only thing it's ever useful for is bridging an ocean gap, which means you place basically a Habakkuk style but civilian type thing, either chain a few of them in the Pacific or put one or two dotted around the North Atlantic.
It doesn't... No, because by the immediate post-war period, aircraft can cross the Atlantic.
No, they can't.
They can.
Why do you think Gander is so huge?
Like
Gander Airport in Newfoundland.
Yeah, but I mean,
Every plane has to stop there
yeah, but we actually
if they're
have
crossing the
an
Atlantic.
actual record of a plane though crossing the Atlantic on a single tank.
I think as it's there's aircraft that could cross it by the end of the war, but there wasn't aircraft that could cross it commercially because commercial
Exactly.
airliners don't fly across massive stretches of open ocean for safety reasons.
Exactly.
But that changes in like a few years after the war, which is the time you'd need to build the
That
Habakkuk's.
didn't change till the 70s with the big
No,
boom in
yeah,
airliners.
that didn't change until like the really efficient jet turbofans started
you're
coming
looking
in.
at like 707 and
The
Comet.
yeah,
like-
Boeing 314.
Yeah,
Literally 1941 flew from Africa to the US, like crossing the Atlantic.
well, yeah,
in-
The question
Yeah,
is
but
how
it
much
cost-
load did it have?
Oh, it was.
Yeah, and it also crossed in the shortest bit of the Atlantic and then went up through South America and the Caribbean.
But
Yes.
but
But
the-
still,
no, but
point that it's doable.
yeah, but Dragon, you're missing that the 314s, which will make case even better. The 314s in actual service through from New York to Southampton, non-stop. The Boeing 314 was stupid.
Yeah, but how much was it in
It's
use at
UNC Samurai.
It's
it's
surprisingly a
it's
fair
Pilot
bit.
Jeff.
Because I was looking into at one point the history of Gander Airport in Newfoundland, and the whole reason that airport was as big as it was is because in the post-war years, planes did not have the range to be commercially viable when crossing the Atlantic. So they had to do refueling stops, and that's where something like so you could see
So
a Habakkuk style ship being used as a refueling.
I
ship.
can't, especially considering the development of jets, and also looking into it. So if we exclude the Pacific Clippers, the first regular from like basically US to Europe were the Comets in '58, and
Yeah, and look
I
how much of a
do
disaster the Comet was.
Yeah,
not
that's
a, right.
yeah.
There was problems initially, but on average, many of them did pretty well.
But you don't want an
Yeah,
airliner
that
to
was
work
mostly-
on
but
average.
It was mostly they were busy trying to figure out what the hell metal fatigue is.
yeah, the Comets unsurprisingly, for being, basically the first commercial passenger jets, had
Yeah.
problems. Who would have guessed?
And one thing
Losing
that's
your
very
windows
interesting
is
is in private meetings, Boeing and Lockheed Martin and whoever else who was also working on the same thing said, yeah, if we had beaten them to the punch, we absolutely would have had the same issue. Their airliners didn't suffer from it because the Comet went first.
Okay, so, that tangent aside, next question. Your typical gunnery officer asks, what if the French had a good amount of fleet carriers before World War II started? Let's say the Joffres get built faster, so they have 2 additional normal fleet carriers in addition to Bern.
What, Joffre and Panley?
I want to know
yeah.
where they're getting the slipways.
I think the idea is that they somehow magicked it.
So no, they
Thanks.
wouldn't. The carriers wouldn't be conversions like Aquila. The French were committed to keel up.
Yeah, because Joffre was a thing on the drawing boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they were on the slips, like they were being built.
Was
As-
they?
Yeah, as World War II was ongoing, but they never finished them.
No, none were ever laid down. One question. One was laid down but was never launched.
Well, yeah,
It had barely any work completed on it.
like I said,
so...
they were on the slips, but they weren't.
Well, they weren't. What? No, one.
I'm wondering where they got the slipways from, because if there are more slipways in
The Joffres are.
at a size that can build that sort of vessel,
It's worth pointing
that
out
produces a bunch of other effects as well.
It's worth pointing out that the Joffres are not. They're not Yorktown.
Santana's there is where Joffre was laid down.
Yeah, she's not like the the Joffre class are not. Are not.
They're 12,000 tons, aren't they?
Yeah.
18,000 standard
Yeah.
displacement.
Oh,
20,000.
okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
I thought they were bigger than.
They're not
Yeah.
the battleship slip ones.
And also they're not
Okay.
even the size of a Yorktown. They've still got 7,000 tons to go before you approach the size of something like a Yorktown.
It wasn't
No, I think the
Joffrey
issue
meant
with
to be
the
built at the
yeah,
same slip
but-
Algerie was.
also, I think the
Oh.
issue also with the slips though will also be the fact that they're almost as long as a Richelieu's, and they already
I don't
had
think,
issues with that.
Yeah, I don't think so that.
Okay,
all
just
aside-
hand with the slips.
Yeah, let's
hand
hand
with
wave.
the
Yeah,
slips.
yeah. Like if we get stuck into the minutia on every single question, we'll never get anywhere. I think people.
But that's where the fun is.
No, Bogue is like half the size of Joffre.
Yeah,
But Bogue is a
but I
quarter
could
the size.
definitely see
Fuck
them being used.
No, Joffre is roughly 236 meters long. A Bogue is 142.
it. Okay, so if they've got a pair of fleet carriers, they're gonna be working with. So you're gonna have them split in two. So one will go with wherever Dunkirk and Strasbourg are, and one will be, basically. At first, one will be with Dunkirk, one will be with Strasbourg. So each of the fast battleships has a carrier escort, and each of the and vice versa. So they complement each other. And then obviously, when the Richelieus appear, the plan would be for them to work with,
So yeah,
the Richelieus. But obviously, that's not going to happen. So what you're going to end up with is you're probably going to end up with one being with. So if both Dunkirk and Strasbourg are in Mez el-Kabir, guess where the 2 Joffres are going to be?
yes. So what you're telling me is that there's a good chance the first couple of actions carriers are in, they get attacked and possibly sunk by surface vessels.
No, they get attacked and sunk by aircraft and surface vessels. Although this might add a different dimension to Mez el-Kabir, because now the British have to go, if we want to actually tangle with the French, we've got to bring enough carrier aircraft to actually...
I'm not sure that would necessarily be too much of a threat to them.
Because a carrier's
Car-
threat's force projection. If you've got
Carriers
a battle
react
cruiser in
badly
the
to
port,
15-inch shells.
yeah,
That's-
you've got a battle
that's
cruiser
fair.
in the port,
Yeah.
its carrier wings don't
I mean,
matter.
if they're assigned as like the first target, a few good volleys of
Although-
AT shells
although
are
if
just
they-
going to
if
make
they-
them
if-
inoperable,
if they
at which
are-
point
Yeah, well, the thing is, if they
finish
are...
them off at your
thing
leisure.
is, if they are assigned as the first target, what happens then? Because the thing is, Strasbourg gets away, and Dunkirk is on her way out when she's being sunk. But she manages to get steam up. If the Joffres are there to absorb a few volleys, do both Dunkirk and Strasbourg build up steam and get away?
Probably not, because they'd be hunted down.
Probably not
Yeah.
because I
Well,
remember correctly,
well, Dragon,
It's-
Dragon. Historically, Strasbourg got away. She cranked herself up to 34 knots and just yeeted off over the horizon.
isn't that because Hood stripped a turbine?
Yes.
On the other hand, you've also got Resolution and Valiant. You could just say, right, Hood target this ship, Resolution target this one.
Yeah, that's
Valiant
more what I
target
was
that.
thinking.
But thing is, Dragon, if that works, why in our timeline, where there are two less important capital ships to kill, did Strasbourg get away? Like,
Because Hood stripped a
What?
turbine.
well, the thing is, the thing is that's not going to change in this timeline. Hood's still going to strip a turbine.
But even then, there's so many things that could be different just because they might split their fire up, they might concentrate. For all we know, the first shell that lands on Joffre could hit a magazine and the entire thing goes up.
Because the most
We
That's
can't
like
necessarily
Riverside.
say
You,
for
you
certain.
only
Yeah,
need
like-
one or two salvos because at first you only need to render the flight decks inoperative.
And
That's
also,
the
keep in mind,
primary
you've
goal.
also got Ark Royal, so Ark Royal could just go, right, first target for us, blow the carrier deck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go and
Couple of 500 to
finish
1,000
off
pound
the other
bombs.
two.
Those carriers are out of action.
Because the most
Uh,
interesting thing about the
we've
Joffreys is
got-
if one of them survives, who have the French put in command of it? Because
I don't know.
its entire thing will depend on which side of France does it join.
The problem is that the Joffres aren't getting away from Mez Kabir. The only ships that can get away from Mez Kabir are destroyers and Dunkirk and Strasbourg. They're the only- the-
Joffre can get up to 33.5 knots,
Yes,
theoretically.
Yes, but Strasbourg took and managed to tank a few shells. Joffre's not going to be able to. In her escape, Strasbourg did take
Yeah.
a few rounds. Joffre's not going to be able to take a few rounds and keep 34 knots.
Well, again, this is guessing how shells actually perform. Like,
Yeah, we
no,
don't know.
they could
I mean,
get
this is
landing.
something.
We're going on,
This
we're
whole
going-
scenario, we'd
yeah.
probably have to wargame if we wanted a
You are-
whole
we're going
making
on-
like a
blatant
solid
guesses at
answer.
Yeah,
accuracy.
we are. But
Yeah.
this is the thing. They asked us for what we think would happen, not what's the most
Yeah.
likely outcome. So,
That's
this
like-
is-
Which is
this
why I don't. While you're correct, it is what we could have. But it's why I'm not necessarily. One might be able to escape. It all depends on basically how would the British forces change their fire up.
If
Yeah.
As how would that change
Uh,
what the
or
British
Sidious
brought
in
to
res-
Mel Zark?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, would the British go right? We'll wait a little bit longer and get more assets nearby.
And does that give time for the French forces in Alexandria to actually join, as they were very near to before Mez Kabir kicked off properly? They were about to have an agreement in Alexandria, and then of course they were unfortunately nearly brought
And
to the
could
brink
that
of
domino effect into Mers El Kabir not happening?
And
So what you're telling me is that Joffrey-
hang on, and if there's a force with two carriers, two fast battleships, will that twit who was in charge of Mez Kabir be not considered senior enough, and will someone more senior like?
Well, that's
Admiral-
what I think Foxo mentioned that. Like,
Yeah,
who's in
that's the
charge here? Because
question.
if they've got two carrier capitals, who's actually the highest ranked officer there now?
And the thing is,
Because
Also,
Yeah.
the big problem was actually radio communications with command, not necessarily the individual
no,
people.
it was the twit,
Well, yeah.
as
Well, yes,
Jeffrey
he was
calls
an
him,
idiot. as well.
just lying to command.
Yeah, Jen Sol. Whatever.
Yeah, John Saul lying.
so I'm going to assume that Jean Soul is not in command, as he's considered not senior enough to actually command. You know what? Fuck it. I'm actually going to say that because it's such a senior force, Darlan is there himself. Because I can believe that.
At which point the whole thing may not happen.
But Mel Zark doesn't happen.
Honestly, I can see Darlan going, one of my options is to sail to the US or the French Caribbean territories. Fuck it. Right, raise anchor, we're going.
Actually, no, because Darlan's pro-Vichy.
No, he is. But if he sails to the Caribbean, his ships are still nominally in his control, and he can, in his mind, sail back whenever he likes. Plus, that
Yeah,
also, plus,
he does go, oh, we're joining the Vichy, well, they're just going to sail back from the Caribbean back, and then we've got a problem.
Because remember, his orders is to sail for. It begins with M in south of France. Marseille?
Marseille?
No,
Marseille.
Marseille. So he wants the fleet to sail to Marseille. So if he's there, he's still going to want to join the Vichy government, the government that he sees as a legitimate government of France.
But the problem is that he's also not stupid enough to go, I can't. He's also going to go, I am going to lose the majority of my ships, so that means they're no good to Vichy.
This is French high
Yeah,
command
he-
we're talking about.
He might try and make a run for it.
But if he does that, it's going to be spotted, and Mezal Kabir just plays out as normal.
Well, no, it depends. Like if they've left there and then afterwards, depends when he decides. Oh right, I'm going to leave. Can Britain get the forces to Marseille as well to
Yeah,
stop
'cause
them
it doesn't
leaving?
matter.
Well,
Part
no,
of the
We would
reason
more likely have a
Mezal-
battle along the coast.
Part of the reason Mezal Kabir happens is because John Zul is paralyzed and just spends nearly a month doing nothing, which allows the British to get into position.
Whereas if...
So-
okay, so Mezal Kabir just won't happen, because Stalin will go, right, we're going back to France.
Quite possibly.
Quite possibly.
Which at that
And
point...
then they've got an interesting possibility of what are those carriers now equipped with, and what do they do
but
with
I'll
them?
also point out the attitude of the Vichy government towards Britain and cooperating with Germany is going to be completely different without the dark state.
Well, yeah,
that
it's
is
the case of,
Mezal
well, they
Kabir.
didn't actually sink our ships this time.
There's also going to be a case of the Nazis didn't seize a bunch of destroyers and cruisers until the end of the war. So 1940, late 1938. No, 19.
No, it's
43?
No, it's
But
42.
would the
It-
Nazis
it
try
was-
and seize it?
Well, no, the thing is, like, the moment the Germans tried to seize it, the French had no forces in their way to stop them, really, getting to Toulon, and yet the Germans managed to seize Jack and Squat in terms of capital ships. There's no reason to believe that that would be any different here.
Yeah, but they did end up seizing something, didn't they?
No, not really. They seized a bunch of older destroyers. Like, basically, anything that
Well,
could sail
no,
instantly...
they managed to get enough stuff that they did plan conversions with them.
No...
Yeah.
Like rebuilds and conversions were a thing that the Germans had plans for
Yeah,
because the
so-
ships were deemed seaworthy enough.
But that specifically that included none of the capital ships and none of the heavy cruisers or light cruisers.
With
Yeah,
the
no, it
temptation
didn't-
of
it
possibly
literally did
getting more
include a
capital
number of
ships,
light
though,
cruisers.
would the Germans try and move on that sooner?
Even
Is it-
even if they do, it will still result in a complete scuttling. There's nothing like the Germans encountered no
depends,
resistance in
because-
1942. Like,
Yeah, because the seizure of the fleet was an act of war against Vichy. If the fleets, Germans decide they want the fleet as the negotiations for France
the
to
problem
surrendering,
the problem is
Then-
that the problem is that if that's the agreement, the French government will like that's what there's a reason the Germans didn't, because that would just make the French government issue orders to its fleet to go and fight with the British. If the option is have fleet or give fleet to Germany, then the option is, well,
Yeah,
we're just gonna
'cause-
fucking tell our fleet to go
the-
fight
if
off.
I remember correctly, Marseille is a shell enough port that if you try and scuttle a carrier there, you'll get what happened to the QEs in Gibraltar, where they're on the
Yeah.
bottom, but they're not sunk.
Well, no, the reason they sell to Marseille originally is that Marseille has the fuel has stocks of fuel for them. The final destination for French warships in the Mediterranean post surrender is Toulon.
So looking into it, 39 ships were salvaged and captured and refloated, including most of their light cruisers were refloated by the Italians.
Yes,
Yeah.
but none of
The ones
those
that
were-
weren't just detonated. So they could potentially get a fair bit from them,
Yes, but that's still
even
not-
then.
Yeah, but that's still not.
Yeah.
gonna
But
beat
also,
the
the
carriers.
Germans would probably send a far larger force to capture them this time instead of a bunch of people with guns.
And you'd have stuff like the Italian effort to seize the cruisers wouldn't be so token, because the Italians did want what remains of the French fleet
The problem,
as well.
the problem is it doesn't matter how much you tilt this in the Axis' favour, guys. I'm still not going to believe there's going to be any outcome other than the carriers and the battleships on the bottom of Toulon with no means
Yeah, but
to actually make them work.
We didn't deny that either, but
Yeah,
we also said
then-
that unless
then-
they somehow
then-
managed to
then-
destroy it,
Then
their Axis could still potentially refloat them quite easily.
Okay, yeah, but that still doesn't
Yeah.
change the fact that they're not going to be operational before the end of the war. So why
But-
are we?
Why? What?
That,
That's not
But-
true at all.
even by
Like, a number of them.
Well, it depends how quickly they're able to refloat them.
Like,
Yeah,
I
like,
just
a
depend-
lot of the cruisers were
and-
refloated and in active service.
yeah, it's like
Okay,
Toulon
okay.
and
The
Marseille
carrier makes
are
hard
very
to-
shallow port.
Okay, yeah, but the point is that we're
You're
basically
Making a
assuming
few assumptions that they would be physically impossible to salvage or refloat.
it's not no, it's not that they can't be salvaged or refloated. It's that bringing them into the active fleet of, assumably, the Italian or Kriegsmarine, like cruisers that have just been sunk. Okay, that's damage that can be made good. But for a carrier or Dunkirk and Strasbourg, you've got to find crews to man 4 additional capital ships. You've also got to then find carrier aircraft for the carriers, which the Axis don't have in Europe.
Which is why
The
which is why I brought up
Italians
the
do,
point
don't they?
earlier of there would be
Like-
the interesting thing of on either side, no matter who gets them, what would these new French carriers be used for as either under Allied or
Yeah.
Axis control?
Because it's just don't the Italians have
There were some
designs for carrier aircraft?
Yes,
Because they
and so did
have
the
their
Germans.
various Fiats. For is it Aquila that they laid down?
Yeah, Aquila.
Yes, she was being
But
converted.
I feel like we're getting caught up on. So, what are we deciding? We're saying that. But anyway, I'm going to assume that historical.
It probably
sinking
just won't
happens.
happen.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. It's like.
Or if it does,
And at that point, there's too
Things end
many
badly.
moving pieces for us
Yeah.
to figure out.
I think Turret's idea, whatever reason, say Gensol is still in command,
Yeah, we just have.
and
Merzal Kabir,
it does end up
that's
having a Merzal Kabir style operation.
That's
It would be
just
interesting to see, right? So how do things react to that? So that's a lot of wargaming.
Because the most interesting thing would be if one of the Joffreys does get sunk by shellfire, combat. How does that affect carrier doctrine? If it's another carrier sunk by a battleship or battlecruiser.
It's not really.
It might
gonna-
not because it was
no.
sunk in port, admittedly.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
Yeah.
That's not gonna change anything.
Or do they then go, well, we have to protect our carriers in port more,
Yeah,
potentially?
which if because the Allies are looking on this,
Or
the
just
Americans have an
protect ports
attache.
more generally.
At Merzal
that-
Kabir, if I remember correctly.
No. Like every one of their mother knows ships in port are vulnerable to attack from ships outside port. And the fact that it's happened by battleships is just a tale as old as bloody time. The Japanese did it in bloody the Russo-Japanese War.
Yeah.
Like it's not. That's not going to be anything. That's not going to be. Wow, carriers in port die as easily as cruisers do when subjected to battleship fire. Wow, what an incredible bit of knowledge we didn't have before.
You're missing my point. It's that a fleet turning up off your base with a carrier and some battleships to sink your fleet in port.
Okay, yeah, Foxo. If the Americans didn't learn that lesson from, fucking 2 bloody fleet problems. And
And Taranto.
Yeah, and Taranto. Do you really think they're going to learn it from a slightly enlarged Merzal Kabir?
Well, you see, the thing is, they were able to
We can
dismiss
hopefully-
the fleet problems as the carrier captains cheating.
And
Taranto, I think they put down
Listen.
to luck.
Taranto, they put down
As
to luck.
someone who
If it
lives in the
happens
U.S., you
again.
underestimate how dense we
can
be.
hope at least that
okay,
this has happened again. Anyway, back to other questions.
So, Gross Admiral Runus von Among Us.
Rune. Rune.
Kill that man. Fleet, this is my question. It's the 21st century and the world powers decide that wars should be fought by an outly duel of big gun battleships. Thus, navies around the world start constructing modern battleships. The only note being it must be a gun battleship. How powerful will these modern battleships be compared to the strongest battleships of World War II? Well.
Uh-oh.
I have put something in reply to that in the chat, and I will now bring that up also on that ship that's visible there. Is something that I whipped up as a modern 21st century capital ship in a world dominated by missiles. It's
Why does it look like it's from 1910?
It doesn't.
Yes.
Like that bridge superstructure, the superstructure, all of it
The
looks
funnels.
ancient
it-
by modern standards.
Well,
It's
okay.
got a split for secondary battery.
There's also, where's the radar
Yeah.
arrays?
Well. The radar is PWI. It's like those are the hexagonal
Yeah, but-
blocks on the bridge superstructure.
And it's also
I would imagine
why
modern-
is the superstructure
The
built
one
into the
thing-
funnel?
Well,
The
because
one thing I do like is that you have gone for a 12-gun ship.
Although again, this
In
is
four
okay.
triples.
This is just a slight example. She's not exactly what
Yeah.
would be built because she's built for a specific Like she's built for a nation.
Also, is that an airship flying off the back?
Again.
Oh, I'm more
again.
interested in the 12x 2050 cals.
Oh yeah, the 20. So yeah, she has 12 20-inch 50 caliber guns.
And she's
in
got
four-
10-inch secondaries.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the 9.2s were considered.
Well, basically, you have to remember this is a ship built to. This is a ship built to survive with only guns in the modern missile era, and she also has to burn coal because that's something
Yeah, but
that I do.
Huh, right. Number of problems there, Fleet. One,
Why
it's the modern
coal?
day.
Because
it might be
that's-
nuclear powered
that's-
for all we know.
that's
or
by
it's
law.
at least
Yeah.
high power steam.
Look.
It's not. It'll
like
be oil. It will
like-
not be coal.
Like I said, she's not a perfect example.
I'm
Well,
sorry. Nuclear
well-
reactors, the ultimate
I
steam
know,
engine
I
fight.
know.
Another
Yeah.
thing, though, that you said it's a battleship for the missile era. Well, this question explicitly mentions these are apparently knightly honourable duels, so it's battleship v battleship.
No,
You're
I,
probably
I,
not
I
worrying
know,
about
I
missile.
know. What you're missing is, like I've been repeatedly saying, she's not supposed to be a perfect one-to-one example. What she is supposed to be is here's something that I whipped up for something else that I partake in, that is like it's more a recommendation of speed, armor, and main armament than anything else. Those are the things you
that's-
concentrate on.
Honestly, doesn't look that bad.
Like as a ship, I think it makes sense, but it just wouldn't. I don't think it'd be a modern day one personally.
Yeah,
Well, it,
that
well,
looks like it's
well,
out
yeah.
of a sort of
Well, no, it's a
sort
modern.
of diesel punk.
Well, no,
book.
it's a well, that's kind of it. She is slightly steampunk.
Yeah.
Since she's based on something else. She's
Yeah.
the ocean-going derivative of the Goliath
Like-
class Aeronef that I also had in that other setting.
What I think could be an interesting thing is this means guns will continue development, surely.
Yeah,
So
they will.
we already see stuff like we've got the American ones on the Worcester, and we've got the Mark 25 or 26 6-inch for the British and twins.
Although what I will say is
How do
that
we see
you're
those
probably,
continuing development?
You're probably looking at secondary batteries disappearing since it's just battleship v battleship, and you're going to be looking at how fast.
Well,
the
I
main
think what
guns
we'll
fire.
see is
No, you've seen an enlargement of
the
second.
sides festooned with the Worcester or the
Minotaur.
Mark
sort of
25
style of
6-inch
fighting,
dual purpose turrets with the autoloaders.
Because what I'm curious, what I'm curious about is
Cause-
then how would they continue development? Because we know historically they did start having issues with the autoloaders on the US ones. The British mostly solved the issue. We would continue to see developments of these and large caliber guns.
Yeah.
So we
it's the
might
case
see
of-
properly auto-loading 16, 18-inch main guns.
Well, the
could be
16-inch
scary.
autoloaders probably wouldn't be a thing, but you would
I
probably
could
go
see-
back to 12 to 14-inch, maybe 15.
I
Because
suspect
even
it's 12
by
inch
area
autoloaders.
today's tech, we've got designs for
Because
autoloading 11 or 12-inch. Because
There's
kinda
certain
need to-
calibers that keep popping up, and I suspect in the modern age where everything is efficiency, we're going to see a lot more concentration on those calibers. So, like, I think the 8-inch gun is going to disappear. Quite frankly, I think
No.
I don't know what we would see above 12-inch, but I know 12-inch and 6-inch would
The
be
reason why I'm
very
curious about the
prevalent.
16 inch is because multiple nations had already looked into 16-inch, and the British had roughly got it working.
Yeah, because the British
Which is why I'm gonna
decided
Continue
to go
development.
for a
of, like,
long-barreled 15-inch when it comes to autoloading.
So what we could see is 15 or potentially 16 with developments. Who knows? But most likely 15 if that's what we fully did get the best. This is what we think will work the most.
Because if
I think we'd see developments.
I'm not
of
talking
this.
immediately. I'm talking like a few decades down the line. I think we're going to see a
'Cause think about it.
consolidation in caliber.
when it comes to weight and weight of the gun and the weight of the round, 15-inch, 15 is the most efficient for
It is also
explosive
modern
delivered on target. 16s are starting to get into the penetration over actual effectivity.
Yeah.
I see sort of 15s and 16s with people just begging into barrel length and reload.
Yeah.
Because 18s, you can't really. What can a slow throwing 18 do that a rapid fire 16 can't?
You can
Yeah.
get your 15, 16 down to like a 15-second potential reload versus
I do have
a
a
20-odd
reason.
plus.
And can I finish?
Sorry, go on.
And because you hit a hard limit with range, because at that point, with 20 inch, you start shooting through weather systems. And weather systems don't care about honor jewels. Now, secondary battery-wise, probably stick with 8-inch, or maybe...
I think 8-inch is going to disappear. I think it's going to either go down to 6-inch or up to 12-inch, depending on the purpose.
I can't see 12-inch secondaries per
No,
se.
because I can either see
No,
8-inch
yeah,
or
that's why I
small,
say
like...
depending on the purpose. I think like heavy cruiser main battery is going to go up to 12-inch. Maybe much fewer of them, but it's going to go up to 12-inch. And
wait,
secondary batteries
Conrad,
are going to
Conrad,
go to
Conrad.
6-inch.
because it becomes an issue of volume for a 12-inch.
Yeah, because the thing is, Cora, don't forget, there are only battleships. There are no screen, there are no torpedoes, there are no anything else. It's just...
So yeah,
big
in which
guns and
case we're
armor.
probably just going to see 6-inch secondaries.
Well, no, because an 8-inch
potentially
firing
see
ballistically can reach out the similar distances to the 15th and the 16th.
It can reach out a similar distance, but I think you're going to see even with autoloaders in play on both, I think you're going to see a much greater rate of fire on the 6-inch.
Potentially,
Because
but
also,
the range
And
of advantage on
there
the
tend
8-inch
to be these. I have this theory that there's these sweet spot calibers that tend to show up again and again and again. 12-inch is one. 6 inches
12,
another.
15.
Quite frankly, I don't know why the treaty system decided on 8-inch. I think that's just because that's where it was headed at the time. But 8-inch is definitely not one of those sweet spots.
8-inch was pretty much the standard heavy cruiser caliber in development by that point.
it was 7.5 inch.
7.5. The 7.5s on the Hawkins, yes, but
Yeah, because
there was a number of other designs going for 8 inches.
But my point is, it's not really sitting on one of those sweet spot calibers.
But it kind of
I
is,
think-
though. Because
I think we're going to see the 8-inch disappear.
Because the 8-inch is the largest caliber of
No.
the rapid fire,
No,
truly
no.
rapid fire autoloaders. You can
Also,
get.
I will
can
raise
do it
that
with
Gunnery
knives.
Officer did also bring up a good point of the 8-inch autoloader was a thing tested, and it
Yeah.
did work, just sticking it on a destroyer was a bad
And-
idea.
Yeah, and it had better performance than the 6-inch.
And if this is a battleship gunnery duel,
Which is
the idea would surely, if your secondary gun can hit the target at the same range your primary can, your whole point will be, I'm going to keep shooting them before they can get their 6-inch in range of me as
So
well.
are we going to see more of a return to pre-Dreadnought
No.
style?
I don't necessarily see. You might see the case of if the 6 inches will definitely have the better rate of fire. Don't get me wrong, but if they have less range, it then comes down to what's the actual two ships.
I'm gonna have to
comparatively.
start timing these, otherwise we're never gonna get through.
I'm
Because-
sorry, you've got interesting questions that
because-
deserve longer
yeah.
explanation.
Yeah, and 'cause the interesting thing about this is, like,
This isn't a bug. This is a feature.
Yeah, 'cause
I'm
it's-
gonna set 20-minute time limits for these now, because I'd
Hey,
like.
there's a
my-
question I've seen come up that I can't wait to go on a tangent with.
All right,
by Bishop.
okay.
it's,
Oh, which one's that?
I wanted to talk about
Yoda beats Palpatine. How does this affect everything?
I'll let we'll cross
We'll
that
cross
back.
that when we get to it.
Yeah, we'll cross that back to tank. Anyway, so Cevix
Where was the
has
next
asked the
one?
question. I'm sorry. I need you guys to keep track of where live chat is,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
keeping track of the questions.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
CVX 1805.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. I've
Just
got
as I
it.
was checking.
Yeah.
I know, just look,
Cevix
make sure that's the one you are
asked,
on.
What if some of the British torpedo boats were stationed in Poland? Poland has some torpedo boats at the beginning of World War II. The latter is by far more likely, since the British wouldn't put torpedo boats in Poland, since the plan was basically to have the Polish Navy run like hell for Scarpa, which they did. Would this put more pressure on the German Navy in the Baltic, and maybe some losses? Yes, if Poland has some motor torpedo boats, and they are used with the aggressiveness and skill that the Polish destroyer arm was, I can see the Germans perhaps taking some torpedo boat, as in what they consider small destroyers, and perhaps maybe even they might catch the old Schleswig-Holstein as she leaves Westerplatte.
yeah, because the
Yeah.
first capital ship sunk is going to be Schleswig-Holstein as she strolls into Gdansk and starts firing on them.
They
Yeah.
They'll probably be sunk in port. But
Because it's just gonna
firing their
be-
guns.
Yeah, she kicks the hornet nest, and a bunch of angry torpedo boats come out and sink her.
Yeah.
If you're joking a bit more, flashing "We are Poles."
Oh no, and playing the sound of constantly screaming "Kurva" over fucking loudspeakers on the fucking.
And then the winged hussars arrived. Just
Kurva.
hundreds of torpedo boats came out of the
Because
water.
I just imagine something scary, just Bliska feature with just an army of angry torpedo boats.
Well, yeah, but no.
Don't pick on me or my
Well-
family ever again.
Well, no. But the funny thing is, you might see the torpedo boats deployed to actually provide a distraction for Bliskovica and the two other large destroyers as they make a run for it.
I thought they were already on the process of running before
Well,
the
yeah,
actual shells were
yeah,
fired. or...
fair, yeah, they were actually, yeah.
Because the subs
Like
were out consorting.
they saw
Oh no,
Germany's building up on our borders.
No, it was literally the demand came down, and the moment the demand came down, Polish corridor or war, the Polish fleet was ordered, right, raise steam, fucking go.
Yeah, because remember correctly, the only ships that didn't do that, well, try to, was one of the submarine squadrons,
No,
which was on exercise, because that's how it ends up in Estonia,
yeah,
and it becomes the Soviet Union's justification for invading Estonia,
yeah,
because they were sheltering a Polish submarine.
Yeah, and the old French protected cruiser that was serving as their training ship.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
next, Peanut asks,
Peanut.
could the USAF in World War II fit a 105mm howitzer, a twin 40mm Bofors, and a quad 50 cal onto the side of B-17 Super Force to make a 1940s AC-130? No.
I'm saying no, not a chance.
No, that is not.
No.
The
Well,
French tried this. It ended badly.
Well, let's go. Well, no. If it's any bomber that's not the B-17, you probably could get the 40 mils on it.
But
Well,
you,
the 40
like,
mils
the
might be able to be
reason-
done on some of the larger stuff.
There is a
Yeah.
reason why every orbital gunship platform, as in orbiting, that orbits around and puts rounds down range, has been a converted transport aircraft because of their excess carrying capacity. It's important to remember that. Yeah, it's important to remember bombers carry single-digit tons most of the time in the Second World War, occasionally double-digit tons. Transport aircraft will pretty much, even throughout the entirety of the conflict, even the twin-engined, will usually carry double-digit tonnages and be far better laid out internally for the mounting of such weapon systems. Have you seen the inside of a World War II era bomber? Even a fucking B-29? It is cramped as all buggery in there.
Because it would take a lot of. You'd have to
Oh,
get a custom-built aircraft for it, but you could
Because-
do it.
Yeah,
What is the American transport plane of that time? I can't remember its name. For some
Because
reason. I've been
C-
inside one, and even then, there's just not enough space.
No, C-47s were used in the role in Vietnam, but that was only because they were able to fit 7.62 miniguns.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, like at this point in time, there's one at Elvington, and inside it's really cramped. But
The only
Most things don't have the capacity at this time.
yeah, we're not. But we have been asked if it's good. We've been asked if it's possible.
I don't think it is.
Because it's not on the B-17, but I think a late B-24 probably has a lift capacity.
I'm
For
not.
for the 40s, maybe.
It would be
The 105?
it would be horrifically vulnerable.
But
Also,
you
the
also
problem I have
can't
with
get
105 is it
105.
would also tear the airframe,
Yeah,
as
but,
we've been in
but the
testing.
105 would have to be the
Yeah.
spinal mounted like the Italian one.
Which also caused major tearing issues.
But yeah, that's because it was the prototype didn't have tearing issues, and then it was tearing issues from materials shortages. So
It's still not an idea that's.
yeah, but
I don't.
I'm
think
I'm
it would
sure.
work.
A ping.
Hmm?
That's time.
That wasn't 20 minutes, Fleet.
I'm sure it
That was 6.
was. It?
That was
Yeah, that was
Anyway.
good.
Anyway, I think we were reaching a viable
Next one's
conclusion.
Sidious's, which is
Von
technically one
Spee-
from
Von
before.
Spee avoided a battle with Craddock, made it past the Grand Fleet, and arrived home. He's in command of the High Seas Fleet for pretty much the rest of the conflict.
Unless he got killed at Jutland.
which,
yeah.
which since Shea didn't, he
Yeah,
won't.
is unlikely.
Shea probably gets command of the battle cruisers, and sorry, Hipper will probably remain in command of the battle cruisers. Hipper.
So what happens with Shea?
Shea. Probably. It's hard to say, but we'll cross that. We'll cross. Hang on a minute. Starting
Might
with
Craddock
timer.
be promoted up, or
Well, no. It's hard to say what happens with Craddock. Because if it's hard. Anyway, listen. So I think the big thing here is what happens with the High Seas Fleet. So basically, there's a real chance here because if von Spee doesn't pull an Inganol and he actually commits to the engagement with the single battle squadron, and you know that golden opportunity the Germans got, where there was a single battle squadron and the battlecruiser fleet against the entirety of the German High Seas Fleet plus Hipper. It
Remember, they
depends.
did run away.
Yeah, it depends how that goes. Yeah, but the thing is, that's because von
Wait,
Ingenol
where's
was.
this question?
Yeah, this was. This was.
Said you
that
said
was-
if Von V's avoids Craddock, right, makes it home with.
Yeah,
In
can you
Germany,
link me
what
to
happens?
this because I can't
it's
find
a-
where
no,
we are.
No, we've
1810.
Fox, it doesn't matter. I've already said
Okay.
what the question is. You don't need to.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at Peanut. 'Cause I'm trying to figure out where we are.
It's alright.
It's literally just below
Like,
Peanut.
I-
one
I-
next
I
to it, there's a
need
link
you
to it.
guys to focus on the live chat in case anyone's asking any
That's what-
follow-up questions.
That's what we're
or-
doing.
Yeah,
Well,
I've got the
The li-
main ones. But basically,
Uh,
Von Spee proved during his return journey that he was resourceful and not action shy. He was willing
Right,
to
in addition
commit.
to
Yeah, he was willing to commit to action against
I suppose
enemy.
this is a question of how did he survive the battle cruisers?
Well, the thing is, we're just like, I think I think the fact that he's made it home is being hand waved.
Yeah, if it's hand
overall,
waved,
I can't imagine it too much necessarily happen. In terms
If
of
it's
ships,
hand-waved-
nothing's different. Go on.
yeah, if it's hand waved, he's got no achievements to his name, so he just gets stuck with cruisers again.
Mhm.
But no.
But if he's
well, no,
done and slipped battle
well-
cruisers,
Well, no, Foxo. The reason Von
Well-
Spee was out in the Far East was because he was the most capable and highest-ranking admiral in the German Navy, and in peacetime, the East Asia Squadron was considered the position that required someone senior, because they would be dealing with the Japanese and the Chinese in an official capacity for the German Empire, and also someone incredibly competent to command those limited forces in the event of either a limited war or a full-scale large conflict as broke out in 1914. When Von Spee returns home, he will be replacing von Ingenol as he is senior to von Ingenol in command of the High Seas Fleet.
What likely tends to happen is that Emden still gets sunk and all that.
Well, yeah, like
But the East India Squadron, the East Asia Squadron, as a thing, still has nothing really to it. So yes, he might be that, but it's also a case of, well, what have you actually done so far?
well,
it's what have you done and why would
Well done
an
for getting
existing
two
chain of
cruisers
command
back, but
be
what happened
changed
to the
because he's
Yeah.
returned?
what happened to the rest of your cruisers you were assigned with?
Because if he's
he's brought Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, and 3 very valuable light
Nope.
cruisers back home with him.
Nope, they were all by the point in time where he would be engaged at this point. Those 3 ships have already been sent elsewhere.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
A number of them were.
No. Only Emden was detached. By the time of the engagement with the battle cruisers, the entirety of the rest of the squadron was
Yeah, 3 light.
was
Even if
still
you got
intact.
even if you got 3 light cruisers back though,
and Scharnhorst
that's-
and Gneisenau.
and these are not exactly useful to the Germans.
Are you,
This
are you
unless he
kidding me?
becomes a
Every
war
light
hero.
cruiser, every light cruiser is valuable.
is not going to make a difference.
Yeah, because think about it. If you don't have a Battlestar starts as a war hero by either sinking or dodging somehow a pair of battle cruisers. What's he
Why
good
would
at?
the Germans
He's
completely
diplomatic.
rechange
He's
Foxo.
diplomatic,
You
right?
said he's good at.
Foxo.
Also,
And
you
he's
said
good
he's
at-
Foxo, he's still senior. That
Yeah,
doesn't.
but
that doesn't-
right, can you just finish what I'm saying? Essentially, just think about it. What foreign station has well, at this point, is it former German assets that need higher ranking officers to teach this nation how to become a competent ally navally?
None of them do.
But right, here's what
They
does.
later on, they fight the British in the Levant fleet.
Also,
Okay.
here's what
Um,
does. Craddock actually have knowledge of how to command.
Von Spee's
a
far too
battleship
high-ranking an officer. Far too high-ranking an officer
look
to
on
go
Tracer.
out to do that.
But he was doing that before the war.
Well, yes, but he's now.
And it's like
Yeah, but he's now.
high commands don't get shifted around for no reason
Also,
if
Yeah,
it's a competent system.
did von Spee ever have command of a battleship before this, or
yes.
anything like? Because so he had.
As in
from
a
what I can
dreadnought,
find-
not a pre-dreadnought.
Because from what I can see, he's mostly used for reconnaissance and cruiser patrols. He was assigned as a first officer to a battleship, but he was never in command of a battleship or battleship group. Whereas the others, by this point, surely would have at least had been brought up to this point. This might just be my logical thinking that he's good at cruisers. And he will be shown he's excellent at cruisers from managing to avoid the battle cruisers. So why would you take him out of an area he is good in, into an area where he's got no expertise, no experience, and he's already been proven to be better, he's been proven to be brilliant at cruisers? Why do we shake up the high command for no real benefit?
Yeah.
Apart
At
from
a
he's older.
detriment
Well, thing
to
is, you get
someone
rid of-
who
Well, thing is, you
knows
get,
how to command battleships.
Von Ingenol was the worst admiral the High Seas Fleet ever had. He was pathetically cowardly.
In hindsight,
Even at the time, his lack of decisiveness was noted by officers
So,
of the German Navy.
Sidious, when would you, well, and in general actually, when do you think they would manage to get back to Germany, roughly?
1914.
So, even then, take this from a 1914 perspective. If the East Asia Squadron managed to get back to Germany, and basically what happens because of it
You've got
in World War One.
you've got
Uh,
an additional pair of extremely valuable armored cruisers, something Germany has very limited amounts of, plus additional light cruisers, which something Germany also has limited amounts of as well, which will help them massively in Baltic operations and operations in the North
Baltic,
Sea.
yes. North Sea, they're still
So-
pinned.
yes, so they
are,
win
but-
the Baltic even harder
Well, yes, but also
because
like
essentially they
like having
oh, go on.
I don't think you like. It's hard to overstate the actual usefulness of Scharnhorst and Gneisenau to the German Navy.
Fleet,
If they manage
you're
to
also
get
the
to World
person who, through a number of previous ramblings, has stated 1 or 2 ships will make no difference.
And it's
I-
like
I mean,
if the
it's- I mean,
Royal Navy
by
didn't
them-
have the battle
by them-
cruisers, they would be useful assets.
by themselves, no. But Scharnhorst and Gneisenau give a almost usable heavy punch that the loss of isn't going to make the German fleet go shit. Because the thing is, the older armored cruisers aren't much use because they're slow. They're 19 knot vessels, and they're also somewhat anemically armed. Scharnhorst and Gneisenau can do about...
How much older are we talking here in terms of vessels?
You're looking at before Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, the previous generation of German armored cruisers.
Went 20 knots.
Yeah, like
20. Well, no, in fact, Rune class, the ones immediate preceders, went 21 knots.
and that additional
Once
knot
before
of-
that was 20.
Yeah, so thing is, it's either slow or anemically armed. So for the runes, for example, the rune class has a single. I think the runes have what, a single 210 at either end.
4.
Oh,
Two,
4.
2 twins.
Oh yes, so the runes.
Twins.
What?
So, but how many were there? There were
That's
only.
two.
Only, yeah. So the thing is, okay.
Like there was 2 Scharnhorsts.
So
Yeah.
So thing is, if you've just got 2 runes, that's a bit anemic. But if you've got 2 runes and 2 Scharnhorsts, you can actually probably form
As
a
the
second
Royal Navy, I
scouting
still
group.
wouldn't be concerned.
Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to use them to go. Like you're going to use them to start messing with the blockade, poking holes in the. Like,
Then the Royal Navy just diverts a little bit
exactly.
more.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you have
they
to
do
remember
that.
that.
But overall,
Until the oceans have been swept clear, the battle cruisers are going out and sweeping it. Like the older battle cruisers, once they swept the oceans, are just gonna
and assuming
go
he
on.
assuming Spee has managed to avoid battle cruisers once, he probably knows. Nope,
Yeah,
not
but-
again.
Like, yeah, but no, it's
I don't
not-
want to risk that again.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, but thing is, you have
It's
to
like-
you have
If
to.
it was the South American War, they would be valuable.
No,
but
they
it's
are
a
still
war with
valuable.
battle cruisers.
Okay, Foxo, like, but
It's still only a few
they're
extra
still-
ships.
they're still valuable additions to the German fleet that doesn't have many armored or light cruisers. It enables them to have a much more operational flexibility. possibly even form a second scouting group based around the armored cruisers its head, rather than just having to have second scouting
But
groups. solely
what
because
will
of
that
stigma.
overall affect?
It gives more tactical information to the High Seas fleet because they can now have 2 wings of units ahead of them.
And they'll then realise we're outnumbered and outgunned even more.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
they're
But-
not outnumbered and outgunned even. I do feel like you're all digging far too much into the, like. I do feel like you're discounting the value that these ships offer to the High Seas fleet.
I think you're perhaps overstating their value
Because remember,
they
it-
are
this-
still just a couple of ships.
Yeah, the question specifies they get back to Germany, right?
Yes.
So they're back to a Germany that's under blockade.
Okay. Yes, and they can help.
They can't.
They can help
So
put pressure on the blockade by being heavy surface units that are 22.5 knots, which is quicker than a lot of armored cruisers. Yeah, it's not faster than battle cruisers, but still. They're also reasonably expendable units, e.g., the loss of them isn't going to dramatically impact the odds of an engagement with the Grand Fleet. So what you've got basically is you've got a pair of ships that can go out, mess with the blockade, run away into the arms of the High Seas Fleet, or you've basically got ships that can help fulfill the tweaking the lion's tail role. Except they can also do it with while the battle cruisers are out messing with the east coast of England, Scharnhorst and Eisenhower and possibly the 2 Runes can go up and mess with the blockade. Meaning the British are like, okay, we have to commit our armoured cruisers up there. Maybe the Germans can have some dreadnoughts up there as well, waiting for the armoured cruisers to come out. Or, maybe it basically provides more tactical situations for the Germans to take advantage of, in essence.
Fleet.
Like,
I'm
I'm
taking a
not
quick
saying-
look at British armoured cruisers of the time, and all of the British armoured cruisers are still faster than these are by almost a knot in a lot of cases. Most of the British ones are 23 knots, if not better.
It's really going to be for them to do what you described. They are really going to have to be good at balancing the knife edge.
Well, so was
Yeah,
the well,
'cause
yeah,
they're
but
either
gonna
get-
but that's the entire German navy in a nutshell.
they're either
And we
going
saw
to
what
get.
happened.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's either they're going to get
They're
hunted
going-
by a battle cruiser
they
if they do
nearly-
successfully,
Yeah, they nearly.
or
pulled
they're
off.
going to
They-
get sunk
The German
by
navy
an armored
nearly.
cruiser.
The German navy nearly pulled off balancing the knife edge. If it wasn't for von Ingenol's incompetence, they would have succeeded in destroying some of a battle squadron and perhaps the entire British battlecruiser fleet.
No.
They
Not a
wouldn't have
No.
changed
What do you
the
mean, not a
outcome
chance?
even if they did.
Right. How would they fully be able to destroy the entire British battlecruiser squad?
Because they caught it, and a
They
single.
caught
And
it,
note-
and
note
then
though
remember
how
the battle
battle-
cruisers are
ran
the ones
away
that go fuck this and leave.
and got
yes,
out of range,
Yes, but the Germans have their own
Yeah.
battle cruisers as well. They're
which
so-
still couldn't keep up because the British ones had the speed advantage already. Actually, it's not 20
Yeah,
minutes
because
yet. but just let me keep
their
an eye on it.
battle cruisers had been running for an extended period of time, and they didn't have good quality coal, so they had to slow down and clean their boilers.
And it's a dark
I'm not
irony of
talking
the,
about
the British
Jutland.
battlecruiser
I'm not
fleet
talking
loses
about
its
Jutland.
lowest element.
I'm not talking.
If you want to
about
slightly change it
Jutland.
also it up a little bit, just because I think some of them might be getting a tad bored, Dark Cities then did add an addition of if Goeben and Breslau were still in
Well, that-
Germany by the time the war had started.
Well, that then makes things even more interesting. Because that then gives the
Happy
Germans...
Royal Navy noises?
No, no.
Because they
no.
don't have to worry about the med?
No. Unhappy Royal Navy noises, because that means that the Germans have an additional battle cruiser at home.
Yeah.
But,
'Cause I
but
think
admittedly, it's
the
still only
bigger
one
issue
extra
for-
ship.
Yeah, it's one ship, and the issue
That
the Royal Navy
matters.
had with
That
the
matters.
battle cruiser being in
And
the.
it spares,
Also-
it spares
It was a
forces from.
in a different
the
theatre, which
Mediterranean.
led to because battle cruisers have projected units of power
good,
projection.
It does mean that the
So-
Royal Navy no longer needs to station quite as heavy forces to keep them penned in.
The Royal Navy
Yeah, it's
wasn't.
okay.
The Royal Navy wasn't stationing heavy forces in the Mediterranean anyway, except during the Gallipoli campaign period.
Remember the
they
old
left that to the
12-inch
French.
dreadnoughts were there, including Dreadnought herself.
Only some of them were there. Most of the 12
Yeah, and they were
Strangers.
sitting by, I think was it Cyprus they were sitting out
Yeah.
waiting
Yeah,
if the Turks ever did anything with those 2 ships.
well, yeah, but yeah, they're also there.
By the
to,
fact that
well,
during
yeah,
the
they're
pursuit
also,
of them, there was 3 battle cruisers currently stationed.
Yeah, but then they
in the
returned to
Med-
England, so you're better off having the
Yeah.
battle cruiser at home, seeing as they're going to come home
Yeah,
anyway.
'cause
And
it's-
that way you've got.
It's happy Royal Navy noises because they don't have to worry about resending battle cruisers to the Mediterranean.
They never
It means
did.
they can be-
Foxo, they never did. Battle cruisers didn't
it
leave
wa-
home waters
yeah.
after 1914.
Yeah, 'cause they didn't think they needed it, but
Well,
just
yeah.
take out the possible threat of need.
Well, no, Foxo, they never left anyway, even with Goeben in the Mediterranean, so I don't get what you're changing.
Yeah,
So,
but it was a threat.
yeah.
Like,
By
a
having the ship
low-level
for-
threat
having-
is still a threat.
Yeah, but but it didn't cause the battle cruisers to leave, so the
Yeah.
Germans are better off with Goeben at home because then they've got 1 additional battle cruiser. No, they are. Like, if the British are going to keep all their battle cruisers at home anyway after 1914, you're better off with Goeben at home.
I guess if you don't look at it in hindsight, yeah.
This
Because
is
in
what-
hindsight,
yeah,
Goeben
yeah.
could have done a lot to fuck with the Royal Navy, but
yeah,
he didn't.
yeah. This is what I mean. Without
Yeah,
hindsight,
in-
you're better
On
off
the
with
other
her at
hand,
home.
Does 1 extra battle cruiser really make the difference
It
in
can
the
do.
North Sea?
It can do. Because
Isn't Goeben an old one, though?
no. But,
She's one of the 11 inches, isn't she?
well, yeah, but don't forget that the German 11-inch battle cruisers are all equals of the big cats, basically, because they have thicker armor.
1909 was when she was
Yeah.
awarded.
Yeah, 1909, so she's a
Yeah.
Lion equivalent, I want to say.
Yes, basically, the German battle cruisers aren't really bothered by the 12-inch battle cruisers. The only thing the German battle cruisers are genuinely concerned about are the big cats.
It's the 13s.
Yeah, because she was
Yeah.
she was a Maltica.
Like
In
we
particular,
saw, like
so-
we saw what happened when 12-inch battle cruisers tried to tango with which aren't New Zealand and don't have divine protection, tried to tango with the German 11-inch and 12-inch battle cruisers. It did not.
Yep.
It did not go well. And if we had Goeben back into the mix, you're actually getting dangerously close to parity in terms of 13.5 and German battle cruisers.
Because the 13.5s, though, were just. Their guns were just fucking over the Germans, even with shells that didn't work properly.
They were.
It's
they
a
weren't.
case of.
It depends.
You might lose
It
if they.
depends.
Because say.
It depends.
Because
on the
Lion and
engagement.
Tiger were protected
Really?
by the from 11-inch. But
I think
properly.
overall, though, there wouldn't.
No,
I think overall there
Tiger-
wouldn't really be any
uh,
major changes.
No,
Because Tiger was protected from 12-inch, which is
Yeah.
the big jump.
yeah,
But Lion's only protected from 11-inch.
yeah, like this
Or
is-
Royal Navy 12-inch.
yeah, this is The thing is because everyone forgets that German 11-inch was actually that was a very good 11-inch gun. It's the reason the Germans stuck.
It's a
with it
good
for
11-inch
so-
gun. It's still an
But
11-inch
it's still an
gun.
11-inch gun.
But the penetration values were good enough that it could, you know.
I do agree, Silver, it does, but in general, though, without the ability to wargame it, I think it's still reasonable to say, as Fleet has said multiple times in the past, 1 ship won't make much difference overall.
Yeah.
The only reason that I'm taking the tangent I'm taking is that I've had numerous ramblings and conversations with Drac where he's emphasized the fact that when it comes to the North Sea theater, the addition or loss of even 1 battle cruiser to either side will massively affect the actions.
But without Goeben in the Med, they can concentrate forces more in the UK. They don't need to have as much
Turrets,
stuff
turrets.
stationed in the Med.
That's a hindsight reading. The Royal Navy took the gamble and concentrated the battle cruisers in the Atlantic anyway. Like, in hindsight, Goeben could have pulled a bunch of battle cruisers out the Atlantic
They
by
didn't, though,
starting shit in the Eastern Mediterranean,
but she
but
didn't.
it didn't.
So there were no battle cruisers in the Mediterranean, not even during the height of the Gallipoli campaign.
They just went, oh, we'll just chuck a
On the
couple of
other
old
hand,
dreadnoughts there.
If we get to the point by the time of Jutland, you've still got the problem of 1 German battle cruiser being added to their fleet versus
No,
5
Jutland,
QEs.
Jutland is where she could make all the difference. You have an extra battle cruiser for the Germans at Jutland. That means that means that possibly 2 ships are going unengaged at Jutland, in addition to Der Flinger. That
No,
could
I
be...
feel if there's another ship, they're probably going to change up their standard strategy.
Well, no.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's
yeah.
also a
well,
case
Because
of
that you're,
right.
you're
okay,
hoping
extra
you're
battle
hoping they
cruiser.
all what you're hoping, Fleet, is that a mistake where they missed firing on one ship becomes an even bigger mistake where they ignore two.
well, no,
And I
It's
have
also
to
a
feel
case
the
of
chances
how- no, right.
are unlikely.
Let's
Well,
let's
no,
just
the
ask you a question.
problem-
How would the Royal Navy react to an extra battle cruiser in the German class?
Divert 5th Battle Squadron probably sooner.
Well, no.
Yes.
No, 5th Battle Squadron.
No, like from a
battle-
force deployment perspective,
Oh, then.
how would they respond?
Oh, they wouldn't. They'd just keep the normal force deployment. Because it's important to bear in mind.
So what we
that-
may see is
okay.
try-
Wait, can I? We are out of time, so I just want to quickly wrap up and just say that it's important to bear in mind that 5th Battle Squadron was only down with the battle cruisers because 1st Battle Cruiser Squadron had been rotated up for gunnery practice. If it was any other week, it would have been all the battle cruisers in one formation and all the battleships with the Grand Fleet. The fact that 5th Battle Squadron was with the battle cruisers on Jutland was basically when Jutland happened wasn't a genius stroke of deployment magic. It was just a rotation to enable gunnery practice. That's all
Yeah.
it was.
But if they're
Controversial
still rotating,
take,
possibly.
but
Now,
5th Battle
the other
Squadron
thing
there
is we're
actively hurts the battle cruisers.
Anyway,
Mm.
so anyway,
the other
and-
thing
and-
we
and-
may
and-
see
for
is
turrets. We're moving on.
Let's just go.
all right.
Okay.
The numbers are growing, Fleet. We've gone from 19 to 21 listeners.
Darth Sidious asks, "What if the Suez Canal was not built? How would this affect things?"
That's too big.
Someone probably
That's-
built the Suez Canal anyway.
That's
Yeah.
a case of you've rewritten the entire 18th, 19th, and 20th and 21st century.
Basically, yeah.
Because
I
that
can't imagine
rewrites
someone would
global
come up with
trade.
The idea of building a canal there. If
Because the
who did it?
ancient Egyptians tried it. Fun fact, the Romans tried it. The Sultanates tried it.
Because
So
the thing is with the Suez Canal is that it's a beautiful place to build it because you don't have to locks. You don't need any locks at all. You just dig channel.
and the thing that made it possible was dynamite.
actually, no,
Um,
apparently there's been like 10 attempts to build a canal there throughout
Yeah.
history.
It's
even
like
going
you're-
even back to like even dating back to 2000 BCE almost.
yeah, the ancient Egyptians tried it.
Oh, this is before even most of the Egyptians.
Yeah, I think
so-
it's the.
Yeah.
I think it's the.
Ramses II had believed an idea of it, so I guess
It was the 8th dynasty that tried to win it.
the 6th
so-
dynasty of Egypt also tried it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
12th tried it.
Well, as
in general, yeah.
as my colleagues are saying, that's really not a viable alt history scenario for the basic reason.
Somebody builds a canal.
Yeah. Somebody's
of
gonna
that-
build it.
It's a case of dynamite now exists. The one blockage, which is a large amounts of material that has to be moved by hand, no longer applies.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the Suez Canal is always
Big boom.
It's too useful
Niastic here asks, would it make sense for ships in northern regions like Canada, Norway, and Russia to have warships with reinforced bows, capable of being used as icebreakers, especially if they don't have ice-free forts year-round? Most ships that have that are in fleets that can counter ice are usually, like most merchant ships in those areas, they're what's called ice hardened. They're designed to withstand the impact of free flows and small icebergs bumping against the sides of their hulls. What they're not is icebreakers. To be an icebreaker requires an extremely specialized ship, which has
There
to
was
be
actually a horrific incident where this occurred quite a while back now, where a passenger liner that was going through the Arctic or Antarctic that was built to be ice resistant was used as an icebreaker, and the ship
Yeah.
sank because of it.
It's a case of an ice resistant is designed to stop ice pressure on the hull that's consistent when it's pushing.
Also, I guess take the look at what the forces actually were deployed there. Canada didn't really have any icebreaker bows on a lot of their military vessels they had, because the chance of running into it was not that high. Or
In
you
case of this-
avoid large ice flows like that.
Oh, right, it's because
Yeah.
most of Canada's ports aren't
In the
The- because Hudson Bay, because the Hudson Bay, I think it's. Isn't there a port at Moosonee or something?
I'm afraid my
Which-
knowledge of Canadian geography is limited.
Which does has it, which for a long time this time period did have its own pair of dedicated icebreakers because it's in the
Hmm,
Hudson
like-
Bay.
Oh yeah, I can imagine there being icebreaker dedicated ships, but I don't think all ships would be given icebreakers.
Yeah, it's too
Because the only Navy-
specialized of a role
because
in
the only
terms
navy
of.
that would
We did
Need
see
it
the
was the
Russians. A
Russian.
lot of Russians had plans for it from their God knows how many planned designs. But
Well,
because remember,
Nah.
couldn't the gang guts be used as icebreakers because they had the specialized valves for it?
I think they did have a icebreaker bow, but they weren't meant to be used as a icebreaker. It's more a
Yeah.
case of if there is ice in their path, they don't care.
Yeah, because I remember reading, I think it was about the ones in the Northern Fleet, about breaking ice that the rest of the other ships could get through that weren't ice hardened, but I could be misremembering.
But it just seems like a lot of work to be done for a lot of ships. That
Yeah,
I
second
think, for a
question.
thing, they can just sort of evolve.
for very very little gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, question. Now that Arctic warfare is becoming a thing, do you reckon modern ships will start getting icebreaker bells, warships?
There might be some, but I can't imagine.
I
it'd be that
don't
common, 'cause why do we want to
think
fight
so.
there, really?
I think
'Cause
most
transpolar warfare is
I
becoming
think
a thing.
most Arctic warfare is going to be submarines.
Fair enough.
Because the other thing you have to look at is even the Russians weren't particularly fond of having to do all this ice breaking. I mean, they look at the plans to convert the Typhoon class into oil tankers, submersible oil tankers to go under the Arctic. Because in their mind, apparently that was easier, or at least something worth considering.
Yeah, but stuff for like troop landing ships, helicopter carriers that aimed at destroying and taking bases in Antarctica and Antarctica for polar warfare. That's what I was about thinking.
Well,
You can't exactly
suspect
do that with a
seeing,
submarine.
Belgorod.
Belgorod?
Yeah, the nuclear torpedo.
Hmm.
Yeah, what about
I
it?
think that's their answer to that. Is you put a submarine with the Belgorod somewhere under the Arctic ice, and you use that to destroy bases wherever you need to destroy them. That's going to be your solution to that capability.
So then, my question would, what would NATO and the West counter the idea of doing that?
Hunter killer
Stand.
subs.
Okay, right. Where are we?
But that's actually landing on
where
the
are
polar
we?
ice caps.
Where are we?
Talk about
considering
polar
the
warfare.
Concerning the icebreaker
Oh, that's-
bow thing.
Oh,
about-
well, that tangented.
Well, yes, because it then became due to the increasing possibility of polar warfare, is it possible more modern ships might start developing icebreaker bows again?
No, because for the simple fact
And my
that-
assertion is
but-
we're not going to see that. We're going to see submarine warfare
well,
in the
yeah,
Arctic.
well, yeah, but also, the ice caps are melting, my guy. They're going
It's
away.
not melting quite that. Yeah,
Like,
but
oh,
Yeah, it's not
my-
melting that quickly. We're not actively.
And
using
the
them
other thing
yet.
is it's not going to melt completely to the point where you wouldn't still need some of the extra reinforcement.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you get the resistant versus actual icebreaker again. So in
Yeah.
general, I don't think.
I think we are going. I will agree. I think we are going to see resistant ships, but I don't think we're going to see warships with icebreaker bows because the utility of that is
limited.
not there when we have submarines.
Okay,
I
fair
think
enough.
Okay.
in general though, the idea of icebreaker bows becoming incredibly commonplace during say World War II is unlikely. Just not
You did-
needed really.
You did have those funny Cold War Soviet nuclear icebreakers that are just
Hey.
always Ah, yes, comrade.
Okay,
Let's ram this iceberg with our nuclear-powered
question, please.
warship.
Okay, next question. Timer, see if I can fucking remember to do it. Timer start.
It's 1919 currently,
Now.
so it should be 1939. The limit.
Alt history question. Wedged. Courageous, Glorious, and Furious are scrapped, and
Uh-oh.
2 G3 hulls are converted to carriers instead.
Oh no.
How better off are the British for World War II? They're not. They've traded 3 useful carriers for 2 useful carriers.
Potentially bigger and better carriers, but you've got
Real-
it's Fox
Well,
and
the
G3.
question
Oh, no,
is,
well, you see,
would
I
they
only get
have
pissed off as the G3 as battle cruisers, right?
They're good ships. You just don't want to admit it.
They're not battle cruisers!
They're fast
And they were
battleships.
rejected by the... No, they weren't. They were glorified
my
dreadnoughts.
question is, would the G3 class hull be materially better in such a way that it would allow one of those 3 scenarios those ships ended up in, like Glorious, for
No.
example, to survive where she didn't historically?
No.
Well, would she be
That's
sent there?
the- that's
necessarily?
the-
Also, would she necessarily be sent there?
Okay, quickly remind me, what was the fate of these ships?
They're sunk,
Courageous,
mostly.
Courageous.
Yeah, no, how did they sink?
Courageous survived.
Glor-
Glorious was
Was sunk by Scharnhorst and Ganize now, and
Yeah.
was
Furious
sunk by, was...
also was managed
No,
to survive.
no,
so-
hang on. Let me just have a look.
Yeah, no, Furious survived was scrapped 48.
Oh no, yeah.
Glorious was sunk by Scharnhorst
then
and
it's-
Ganize now.
Then it's Courageous that's sunk by U-boat.
Yeah, would the
Because-
anti-torpedo defense be any better that the theoretical Courageous replacement would have survived
I
where
don't-
Courageous didn't?
I don't think so.
Admittedly, these would also be quite reasonably bigger carriers.
They would be, but I
Yeah.
still maintain.
We're talking like an
mass.
extra 40. We're talking an extra 40 meters at least on the flight deck. Not even including the fact that there's like 6 meters wider, if not more. So these would, instead of being the 48 plane carriers they were,
which is perfectly
these
acceptable.
could be. Yeah, I'm not. Hey, I love these ships, so don't get. I think they're fine. It's a case of, would we start getting to stuff where it's a case of these might be 60 planes potentially, or would these be a bit larger to be more classed as fleet carriers
Well,
than
no,
instead
Dragon,
of?
Dragon. If they're
Well, yeah.
G3s,
Because-
if they're G3s, they're going to be Lexington equivalents. You're talking about 100
Yeah.
aircraft.
That's what. Yeah, that's what
basically.
I mean.
Yeah,
Would
'cause
the fact
if-
that they've got these more planes and there's only 2 of them, would they be sent to the same situations?
I
But
don't.
it's that in the situations, against
Like,
a
would you-
torpedo, the G3 is just fucking massive. Like, yes, its torpedo defense isn't the best if you just take the as designed in the late 10s.
I would
but
love to see Foxo and
they
Drac-
have
I would love to see Foxo and Drac go toe to toe over the G3s. That'd be something I'd pay good.
Primarily,
Yeah.
the Fox doesn't like them because G3s are based more off battleships than battle cruisers.
Well,
is the
yes.
main
yeah, and
thing.
politically they were battleships because the battle cruiser guys didn't want them. But
Not that, but they also would be acceptable with them. Anyway, that's a different question.
yeah,
and
that's a
if
different
someone brings
question.
that-
Because
someone brings
the
that up,
interesting
run.
thing is that the a G3 conversion. Well, look at ships the size of the Lexingtons. They're much bigger, and big ship eat torpedo better than small ship. And because if we look at the
Well, yeah,
proposed
one's a
conversions for the
50,000 ton
G3s,
versus 22,000.
we're looking at a 33 to 36 knot carrier, which I think can outrun the Scharnhorst when Glorious tries to leg it.
Well, I think. Well, here's another one. Would you leave? Sorry to interrupt, but would you leave a G3 scale carrier with only 2 destroyers as escort and
No,
nothing
she-
else?
No, she'd be with Renown. She'd be operating
Yeah.
with Renown.
Yeah, because
So that might be enough to scare that off. But go on, sorry, continue.
let's just take the historical actions the carriers do. Right. Glorious was run down. She died running. So a G3 could escape that. So
Oh, sweet
Yeah,
Jesus! I've got to answer this.
G3 as
one.
an aircraft carrier got to Glorious got to 30 knots, potentially G3 at 32.
a 33 to
more?
36. 32 to
Hmm.
36 was the design proposals.
Yeah.
Unless you go for the 80
Well, I'm wondering.
carrier 80 aircraft version, which they said could get up to 40.
I'm not sure.
And I want to know how the hell they did that. But anyway, that's.
I do agree, there would definitely be Lexington equivalents. Somebody did ask, would these conversions be would they be better than the Lexingtons? Would
Horses for courses. Because
wedge jets, would they likely be better carriers than Lexingtons?
yeah, because it's going to come down to electronics. Because they're both the same size and similar S. Because they're not going to be armored carriers. They're before that concept. It's just going to come down to, do they get their night fighting equipment the armored carriers got? Because if they get night fighting, they're better than Lexingtons. If they don't get night fighting, they're just British Lexingtons.
I'd say generally they're probably they are probably closer to Lexington than necessarily Akagi. I would say.
Yes, they're slightly fatter Lexingtons.
Because I highly doubt we would ever see the triple flight deck of Akagi and Kaga. I could maybe see a weird double flight deck again, like we did with Glorious and such, for a while. But then I see them just making that a bigger hangar again, so more planes.
Yeah, because they were twin elevator single flight deck proposals for G3s. Because the original concept behind the conversions, and if this is when Glorious and Furious are getting converted, it's going to be their original design ideas. Which means they're carriers designed to be working with the battle cruisers. So they have the speed of the battle cruisers. It doesn't matter they don't have high sortie rate, because they're working with the battle cruiser concept. And at that point, the battle cruiser concept's 32 to 36 knots.
Yeah. You definitely wouldn't. I don't think we'd also see them in their situation, so they both might survive. Is definitely a possibility.
And I can see one getting bombed. Because I can see the Royal Navy getting overconfident with them.
Maybe? It's a possibility, but I'm just not sure where it would have to be bombed.
Because the Mediterranean.
I would hope they wouldn't send one to the Mediterranean without a hell of an air wing.
But they sent Glorious and Furious there. And the armored carriers were protecting themselves quite well with their air wings from land-based aircraft, until suddenly they won.
I'm hoping the Royal Navy would go, this is a much bigger, better carrier. The chances of this, because instead of there being 3 of them, there's 2 of them, and it is hopefully better as a design. I'm hoping they wouldn't just throw that into enemy air cover.
But that's kind of what the carriers for the Royal Navy were doing in that part of the war. Because it's like, excess is the first time you see the heavily concentrated land-based strikes on the carriers. And I can't see a non-armored carrier surviving that.
Do you think any of them might be used for, not catapult, the basically Malta convoy?
Yeah, they would be excellent for it until excess. And I can't see one surviving what Illustrious survives.
Because if they're unlucky, they have what happened to Eagle. But hopefully it would be better designed than that.
Yeah,
because Eagle went down in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But
they would take a lot to bring down. But sort of until the Japanese attack, the carriers are being used in the Med, and to a little degree when the Germans start shitting the Atlantic. And it's just a case of they're going to get hit by something too big and sink slowly.
Or if they're lucky, and other ships might be able to save them, but...
Yeah, it's a case of...
difficult.
If they get hit on the return from a Malta convoy, they can't nest and repair in Gibraltar. Yeah, it's like...
Where they launched from?
Actually, no, because the G3s would be big enough for the bigger land-based aircraft and land-based fighters.
I've been pinged in Theatre at Sea. Could one of you blokes go down and have a look and see what the ping was?
I can't see what that's connected to.
When
Fleet of Oceans, Courageous was sunk by a U-boat. They were chunky.
There's also one from Sidious a while ago.
I've been busy conversing with Cindy.
Yes, I've been seeing that. I'm just trying to remember.
I'm just
Where was it? Which
Someone else
But
just
honestly, I could see
Illustrious.
the attempt.
It was
Here's
there.
one for you. Yeah, fleet. That you were just ping again, one ping only. But here's one for you then. How would one? Do you think any of these might be used if they can get that for Taranto?
What really?
Because Illustrious was used for Taranto, but
Yeah, but that was. I guess it depends on if the Royal Navy shifts doctrine. I guess
yeah,
because it's has anyone seen Drax videos on armored versus unarmored carriers here?
yes, they were excellent.
Obviously.
Yeah, and he brings up at the beginning how the Royal Navy had a plan made the distinction between a fleet carrier and an armored carrier. And going in and doing port strikes under hostile airspace, like Taranto was the job of the armored carrier. So doctrinally, that's why would they put.
Don't worry, Ruin. We will try and get to it.
Yeah,
Whenever
I'm
it
just
comes up.
waiting for Fleet. I'm waiting for Fleet to tell me to stop because I'm boring you all today.
Alright,
Technically
okay,
you've
stop,
Technically speaking, you've still got 9 minutes, but
Yeah.
also Blizzard's relatively far down in the list as well currently.
Okay, so I'm looking for
Actually, maybe. Actually, that
this
might be one of the next
question,
ones coming
this
up.
question. Gross Admiral Runus von Amongus asks.
Yep. That is that one actually.
The Germans build a specialized airship, probably bigger than the Hindenburg, for some reason starting in 1939, and around 1942-43 the Luftwaffe sends it over the Atlantic and lobs a few hundred kilograms of rocket artillery into New York, maybe brings down a building and kills a few dozen. How would the US public react to this? Basically demand that Germany be flattened, which the USF would say we're already doing.
Here's one. Would it even actually get a chance to do it?
If it's taking them by surprise and it's never happened before, yes.
Radar? The US
The
fleet?
US East Coast don't have it yet. US East Coast don't have it yet.
Yeah, because like there's the fleet.
I'm just
like,
thinking-
if it uses German U-boats to let it avoid visual detection, because like, what are the Allies going to think if they see this large thing on radar? They're not going to know what to make of it, because apparently
They'll probably send something to investigate.
no.
Yeah.
And a Catalina finding a giant.
Like, if something pops up and if someone's reported it, if it's popped on radar, okay, well, hopefully you don't have a Pearl Harbor situation, but hopefully someone will go, that's a real big blip.
The thing is, it's
Set something up to investigate.
It's 1942. There aren't
Well, 43
many...
even, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 42 because that's a fairly I'm gonna assume that the most realistic thing that happens is that Graf Zeppelin 2 is taken in for conversion into this stupid hybrid, since she still exists in 1939. Instead of being scrapped, she's being converted, so they can have this thing out by 42. And at that
That's a
point,
lot of
Europe,
aluminium.
actually.
and the thing is, if she's out by 42, there aren't many escort carriers at all in the North Atlantic. And
No, but there is the various fleets there.
no, this is what I mean. If the whole point of this is to be a propaganda coup, the best thing to do is to steer her through, is to basically use U-boats to basically act as both weather reporting stations and, basically steer this way to avoid convoy XYZ, steer this way to avoid patrolling warships XYZ. Basically, she'll get there, and she'll do her mission. She's not getting back.
And also, instead of being a propaganda coup, it's a case of, why did the US just get angry?
Well, no, the US is already angry, so...
Yeah, but bombing a US city is a different level of angry.
Because
Yeah.
it would be a propaganda crew.
Coup.
Dragon, word, please.
Ooh.
Coup.
Propaganda
Coup.
It'd be a propaganda coup for the Nazis in Germany. Because, haha, we go and bomb the insidious Americans. We very strong. We can totally win this war.
Unfortunately,
although-
that
You-
does mean that there's going to
I've
be a
also-
lot
I didn't
less
hear no bell.
resistance to
I've
the
also-
Europe First policy.
But
do you mean?
Europe First is going to happen anyway. And it's just
Well,
a case of
That's why I
The
It's
mentioned
going to
Nazis
happen
do
anyway,
it.
but there's going to be a lot more people on board with
yeah,
it.
it's just a
that's why I
Nazi
mentioned,
version of the
would they
Doolittle
actually get
raid.
out of Europe?
It's a
The
Nazi
funny-
version of the Doolittle raid.
It basically is,
Depend-
yeah. But although what this might mean is it might mean that a lot of squadrons that are deployed to Europe or the Pacific, in terms of fighter squadrons, basically it won't be too many, but it might be one or two are kept at home. Because you know what the public's gonna like? They're gonna like, we want some squadrons kept at home to defend our fucking cities against these German airships. Rubble.
Or as you said, it's a case of right, Germany needs to be flattened.
Oh no.
It'd be both.
That's
Both.
what I suspect is more likely going to happen.
But yeah,
Because
the
honestly-
okay,
There's just
first of all,
100 LeMays.
Okay,
Yes.
first off, the Graf Zeppelin
Which
2,
might have some interesting
okay.
implications in the Pacific campaign.
First off,
But-
Yeah, I'm sorry, aircraft design.
First off, the Graf Zeppelin 2, if she's going to drop, she's gonna have multiple film cameras recording what she's doing aboard the airship. She'll drop some waterproof film canisters to U-boats below, basically because they might be convinced that she might not make it home, but they want the films to make it home so they can be shown in, doing the Goebbels thing, shown in propaganda theaters, to great acclaim.
Would the subs be able to get that close to the US coast?
Well, no.
Yeah, Dragon,
no,
remember,
no,
one
no,
of them got
she's-
into one of the Great Lakes.
No, but bear in mind, Dragon, she won't do this drop until she's over the mid-Atlantic on her way back.
Yeah, but I don't think she'll get that.
Yeah.
She would.
As
She
soon
would.
as the bombing happens, any
the plane
fighter
just
in
didn't
the
have planes
area
that would
is going
launch.
to be in the air.
There aren't any, and she'll be gone by the
Yeah.
time they get to where she
There
Oh
was.
no, because no, it's going to be a real issue fight because the main squadrons on the Eastern Seaboard at this point are maritime patrol aircraft.
We've seen maritime
Yeah.
patrol aircraft could take on a blimp like this.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's going to take time for them to come.
And also, more to the point, she will be armed with.
But
the
an
next
airship
weapon ring.
isn't particularly fast.
They're
Yeah,
not
but
as slow as you
airships
think.
take a long time to shoot down properly
Yeah.
compartmentalized ones.
And
They
also,
take a long time to go down.
more to the point, Graf Zeppelin 2 was clocked at about 100 miles an hour, flat out.
Yeah.
And so if she cranks up to full speed to get away, she might not be able to outrun an aircraft, but she can put tactical distance between where she was when the attack took place and where she is when the air forces show up to where she was.
'Cause she's going to be found.
issue
because maritime
The issue
patrol
I have
aircraft
with
go
this is the fact that the US would definitely have fighters in the area because you would have stuff like
Swiss doesn't
P-40.
know. Because
The main
those
trading fields are
squadrons
further south.
were deployed to Europe at this point, and
I don't think every single squadron they had there would be.
yeah,
but
no,
there
because
were
yeah, if I remember
not.
correctly, the
the
main
other
training
thing to
base
bear
for
in
the
mind-
USAF was on the other side of the Appalachians. It was on the Great Plains.
Yeah.
That's where the great
Correct.
sort of fighter and bomber training areas were, if I remember correctly.
Because
So it's
I
either
mean, sure,
Here,
that,
what defense companies are located in that area?
she might.
Yeah.
She might. The thing is, are there any flak guns around New York? But the thing
No.
is there literally
No,
not a
I
single
don't think we're going
Catalina
to see
sat in
flat
New
guns.
York
What I
Harbor?
think,
no, because
may
remember,
see
the
is-
Catalinas get deployed. That's the thing.
I mean, but there are like no maritime search aircraft on the eastern seaboard.
Well, the thing is,
Well, no,
the thing
'cause
is,
it's-
I'm gonna,
it's,
I'm
assuming-
gonna say this as a given. She gets there, she does the thing. The interesting thing is what happens as she's on her way back. Are we gonna see the US stripping destroyer escorts from convoys to go out and use their 3-inch anti-aircraft guns to hunt the airship Bismarck?
Well, no, 'cause what's going to
Where-
happen is, because yeah, to get
where-
across the
where is
Atlantic, she
Ranger
would have had to
Langley at this
sneak
point?
past the maritime patrol aircraft based out of Bermuda. Those aircraft are just going to beeline for her, so she's got a couple of hours before she gets shot down.
And thing is, even if she doesn't get shot down, let's say she makes it home. We all know what's going to happen. The
When
German-
in 1942 are we saying this?
No, but thing is, so I'm basically going to say this. So what happens here is, let's say, but all odds, she gets there, she does it, she gets home, and as you know, she's been rolled back into her hangar, and the propaganda film was playing. The propaganda film will end with, having done her duty to strike the US, she will now do one final duty for the German war effort and give up her aluminium and aero engines for other aircraft. She'll be broken up. She'll be broken up for her aluminium.
This is why I'm just wondering, when about in 42? Because potentially the US might actually have some carriers nearby.
Yeah, because depending on where Langley and Ranger are.
Ranger was in command of the Atlantic Fleet in 42.
Yeah, because Ranger's... But isn't Ranger up north, though? She's near
Yeah.
Newfoundland
So
at this point.
where-
isn't she?
Yeah, a lot of
Langley-
stuff is going to be
No,
digging
what she's
around.
doing.
No, Ranger's actually the closest then. From Newfoundland
Yeah.
to the Central Atlantic, where near New York, Ranger can dash that.
Yeah, because Langley's
Yeah.
in...
Langley.
Is it Charleston?
The funniest
Langley
thing
is
Langley can be
a
outrun
prey in a
by the
hut.
Graf Zeppelin 2. Langley can
Yes.
be outrun by the Graf Zeppelin 2.
Because all this shit aside, one thing I do adore about this art history is that it gives the US a reason to go for the twin-engined heavy fighters, the really long-range ones. So the idea of the American Mosquito...
I think what's most interesting here is not the attack itself, it's what does the US do in response.
Yeah, because the
because
US is
I
going
hear
to
you're
want
gonna see a
long-range
lot-
fighter bombers.
Thing is, you
Not just in terms of equipment, but in terms of deployments. I think we're going to see a lot more focus on Europe. I mean, honestly,
Yeah, because Langley was a seaplane tender by 37, so she's no longer a
Yes.
full
Okay.
carrier.
Yeah, but when it comes to deployment,
Alright.
though, the US isn't going to change because they don't need the carriers in. Well, they don't need the heavy assets in the Atlantic. Royal Navy's doing that. The land-based fighter squadrons are already going to Europe, no matter what. The big thing is, what do the Americans build to counter this?
Also, actually, there is a possibility there are some escort carriers because the Bogues were in service by this point.
Oh boy.
oh
But
no.
I just want to see.
Yes,
Because
I agree.
because the
Guaranteed
Americans
she
had
gets involved,
design
though.
equivalents of Beaufighters, and like the fighter sort of like the non-float plane version prototypes of the Catalina, and like the twin-engine long-range maritime patrol fighter ASW aircraft.
Oh yes.
They didn't get produced historically because there's no perceived need.
Yeah,
But
either
there's
way,
a
yeah.
perceived need now.
One way
We
or
get
another,
cool
also-
American twin engines. It's a win-win. It's just to
What-
kill a couple hundred civilians.
One way or another, the US is probably very annoyed at Germany.
Yeah,
Nice.
honestly, it might be. It's definitely going to be interesting psychologically
ding, ding,
as
ding,
the U.S.
ding.
moves into the Cold War
Ding.
because they will
That
have
wasn't
been
funny.
attacked on their own soil before,
Dinga,
which I think is going to greatly
ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
impact the mindset.
Wait, that wasn't. How short's your minute, Fleet?
Look, I think we've done this
50
to death.
seconds.
We've done this to death.
I'm counter timing this, and you think are not.
Because the thing
Yeah,
is,
I've got a timer going, and
thing
it's
is-
16 minutes in.
Thing is, the timer.
One airship versus
the-
100
thing-
people,
thing-
17. Yeah,
Thing is,
exactly.
Thing is, the timer is either natural running out of the basic premise of the scenario, which we've done, or 20 minutes, whichever comes first. Besides, Dragon, you're going to be pleased I've stopped this, because the next question is alt history question. During the end of the Clone Wars,
Yep.
Yoda catches Palpatine off guard and crushes him in battle, and by extension, Anakin dies of his wounds on Volcano Planet. What happens next, and how funny is it?
Republic has a crisis. The droids are. Admittedly, the best thing is the CIS are shut down, well, mostly, but now that Palpatine just lost their Supreme Chancellor, chaos in the Republic, chaos in the CIS, fracturing from both sides, likely.
It's
Who
end
takes
the
over?
Empire. It's
Yeah,
Empire,
the Empire
end
will
of the
never
Empire.
happen. Yeah, Empire would never happen.
Yeah, but it's supposed to interregnum, but how
Yeah,
many years earlier?
It's over 20 years earlier, basically.
I mean, the
Yeah.
Jedi could step in and
Right.
restore order to the Republic.
Most of the Jedi
no,
are still dead.
Civix, the
Yeah.
Republic does not officially have a military. There's
Oh.
what became was the Republic Fleet. Then we also had
The Grand
the
Army of the
Galactic
Republic.
Security Corps. and the
Yes,
Grand Army.
this-
But the Grand Army of the
So-
Republic are primarily clones.
Yeah, it was refounded after being disbanded for
No,
years.
the Jedi. Well, the Jedi won't be
They
dead
will be.
per se. They won't be. They'll.
Because
They'll
this is
be.
after
This
'cause-
is after 66, but
Before it got really
this is
widespread.
before most of the Jedi were. Because remember, Order 66 only actually got maybe 30 to 40% of the Jedi. It was post Order 66 was where 90% of the Jedi died.
Yeah,
A
because
lot of them returned to the temple because they, if you remember, they had a all clear beacon at the temple saying "Return to the temple" to be murdered. Then you had Inquisitors from the Empire. Without that, the Jedi Order is massively reduced. Well, no, the citizens wouldn't necessarily be able to claim that because there would still be other issues there. There would also the Jedi would be Sidious would probably be killed, yes, but would they know it's a Jedi? Also, plus then with this, they could probably point out all of the manipulations and betrayals of Sidious.
yeah, but people don't care about that shit.
People
Yeah.
People don't.
Uh,
The
because
Senate
because
does.
the bigger issue for the Jedi is
Well,
Sidious has
like,
spent
the
the
Jedi-
last entire war poisoning the galaxy's opinion of the Jedi.
Not true though.
He's
We-
turned them from
tried
warrior
it.
monks to generals.
But on the other hand, most people still respected the Jedi. We see this
I'll
for
also
we see this in
point-
so many planets.
I'll also point out, Foxo, some people of the Republic have very long memories, and more in particular, the Republic histories have not forgotten the fact that the greatest enemy of the Republic, for most of its existence prior to the Great Period of Peace before the Clone Wars, was multiple variations of the Sith Empire.
Yeah.
So
Now-
But would
so the
Derek on the
knowledge-
Mid-Rim care? But would Derek
Those
on the
would,
Mid-Rim
but on
care?
the other hand, Derek on the Mid-Rim no longer has to care that he's just been oppressed by the Empire.
Yeah.
There is now political chaos. The Jedi will probably go in. The Jedi will probably be kicked off Coruscant to whoever's left because, yes, the public opinion might be against them. The Jedi will likely flee to worlds that support them. Ryloth, Yavin, hundreds of other planets where the Jedi have saved them. The CIS will go, well, our army was just shut down and our leader's killed. But the Republic's in chaos. This is literally the perfect opportunity for us to either try and make a peaceful solution now that the one person who stopped peace is dead. Like, yeah, the CIS, I suspect, will just go, right,
Yeah,
who's in
isn't the whole
charge?
thing of-
Can we, ignore the Republic for a bit?
No, because the thing is, the CIS.
Because the CIS will explode as well. Because Dooku's
no.
dead.
Well, no, the CIS. No, the power will pass into the hands. The CIS actually has a method for power transfer that's been laid in by Dooku himself. Here's the thing: while Dooku was working with Sidious, he was also partially working his own plan to create a properly independent rival state
Yeah.
to the Republic, like under Sidious's nose.
I don't want to be a person who says, oh, the CIS is actually a good thing. No, the CIS were very much a bad thing as well, but in terms of how it's been laid out in Star Wars,
It's also
The CIS
worth pointing.
It's
were valid
Yeah,
in their
it's-
argument, at
it's-
least.
it's-
They were a
it's
very-
Not their methods.
they were a very competent bad organization.
It's
Yeah.
also worth pointing out that the CIS war crimes were basically deliberate actions
Sidious.
by Dooku, Sidious, and their pawn Grievous.
Now, keep in mind also,
to
Dooku was
basically-
actually beloved. Like,
in
he
the
was a
CIS.
nobleman and loved by the CIS because he actually treated the CIS very well. So the Republic's in chaos, the CIS is in chaos until they can get their new leading council in.
I can't help but
Yeah,
wonder.
because
I can't help but wonder if you know where Dooku says was actually talking to Obi-Wan on Geonosis. I can't help but wonder if that message to Obi-Wan saying, the Senate is under the control of the Sith Lord, was Dooku basically going, I've managed to get myself into a position
Yeah.
where the CIS is actually rising.
Like,
If I can get the Jedi to believe me, I might actually be able to remove Sidious and just become the leader of the CIS without having to worry about fucking about with.
Also, remember, the CIS did actually once try to make a peace treaty with the Republic that was only stopped because of Sidious.
And
In the chaos of this, they might be able to go, shall we stop the war for now? Even if it's not an
Yes.
agreement, just ceasefire.
Yeah.
And also, the CIS will love a ceasefire because they are losing by this point in time.
Yeah,
He
I
wasn't a
just need to
Sith,
point-
but he was a trusted member of Palpatine's group.
Because what I need to point out is that, aside from Dooku,
the way
isn't the CIS an absolute
Federative
nest
Independent
of the
System.
military-industrial complex?
yes, it's part of the reason the
And it's essentially a massive corporate interest, and the
thing
war's still profitable for them.
and the thing
They're
is-
not winning,
well,
but
no,
it's profitable.
Well, no, Foxo, that's true.
It's not.
Except, well, no,
Banking clans were invaded because of this.
Well, no, the thing
They
is,
were privatized.
but
Not
Dragon,
privatized, sorry, nationalized.
Yeah, Dragon. Here's the thing. Foxo is correct about some of it, except the leaders of those councils that were actually directly filling their bank accounts have all just died.
Were
on
all just
Mustafar.
murdered.
Have all just died on
Yeah.
Mustafar.
But it's a case of
So for once, power will transfer out of the clique of industrialists to the actual separatist parliament.
You might see a military coup in the CIS,
Yeah,
depending
'cause
on
it's
what
like-
powers play out.
Because it's like the actual power blocks behind the industrialists and the people who are making bank off the war won't just disappear.
No,
The
like
successor will go, we like, if the war stops, nobody needs battle droids. We make a shit ton of money selling shit tons of battle droids.
well, no. Thing is, Foxo. If the war stops, we still no. Thing is, if the War of the Republic stops, they still need battle droids to sort out the various.
They now need a standing army.
And the thing is,
Exactly.
and
But they
the
don't
thing
need
is-
unlimited production.
Well, no, they do, because B1 battle droids do not last forever. They have planned obsolescence for that reason exactly.
Yeah, but it's the
not
difference between
necessarily
spending
true.
a lot
It's
of
a
money
model.
and having the keys to the kingdom. Because
Also-
remembering
also-
correctly,
Also, the funny thing is, you may see some form of B3 battle droid, something that's produced in smaller is more expensive to produce, but basically is
The
producible.
B3 is already a thing fleet.
Oh.
Yeah.
B4.
It's a like. Yeah.
B
B4
whatever.
potentially.
B whatever the next line of mainline battle droid is. Okay. Just
anyway,
What's more
So
interesting is the
Succession-
Republic's politics, in my opinion,
yeah,
because they will have to vote in
Empire,
a new
it's
Senate.
the 5th century collapse.
are
It's the
They
fifth
now
century
need to vote
collapse.
someone new in.
are the Huts gonna make moves?
No. The Huts
Yes.
aren't. No, they're not. They might expand their crime rings, but they cannot make any real moves because then both sides would go, "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing? We were in the middle of something here." You would have
But
peacekeeping
if
groups
the-
sent from both sides.
But I
There's
suppose that
nobody
just
like
depends
the
how the
Huts.
cards fall of the Republic. Because, if I remember correctly, the Republic is sitting on a lot very old grudges and has to deal with, essentially, groups within the Republic really trying to kill each other half the time. And the only thing keeping them conflicts down is...
Not how. That's not how it worked, Iro. You can't make a universal code to shut down battle droids.
Yeah.
Because each one uses a different network. It's been described in a couple of books. For instance, every single time you've got a single Loose-Alt command ship with its droid battalion, it's going through millions of different command frequencies on constant rotation. Unless
kind of like a neural network, which is weird.
the only time this has failed was the preparation for attack of outbound flight and the invasion of Naboo. Invasion of Naboo was the problem is they were having to coordinate both ground and air assaults, so the computers were overtaxed. And in outbound flight, well, you have a certain blue-skin military genius who decided to keep messing with them,
Fucking
including then just deciding, what happens if I just jam every frequency? Palpatine's command was not actually Palpatine's command, it was the CIS's own command system. Which also, I'd point out, note how a number of separatist droids just went
No.
no.
In, 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 in,
They actually just said no to their shutdown code.
including the man, the droid, the legend, fucking the man with the gold trim, absolute unit.
We know of one in Rebels, yes, but we also know there was hundreds of separatist strongholds where they didn't disable the battle droids.
Yeah, they disabled
take
enough
the-
to cripple the Republic.
Yeah.
The-
Take
this
the
AIS.
Onager class Star Destroyer. It was designed to blow up separatist holdings because we can't crack this. What if we use a big mass driver / super laser to do it instead?
Nothing,
So
there's
we do
nothing
know
like relativistic
Individual
rocks.
droid commanders and their humanoid ones could negate a shutdown code. It's why for like 15 years post Republic fall, there's still separatist holdouts.
And and also it's the reason why for the first 15 years, it's able to be justified to the core that the Imperial Army and Navy need to keep increasing.
Yes, don't worry that we're increasing garrison forces on your worlds and you're being put under security. This is just to stop this.
The Separatists are coming. Like if they break through, like they're gonna atrocities are gonna be here.
A virus can work for a small group, but it rarely tends to work for all battle droids. And if you make it work for all battle droids, what stops that necessarily going after other droids? That get also programmed with it.
Uh-huh.
Because remember, the Techno Union and the actual people making it,
The Techno Union.
the same stuff's in all of them. Somehow, what Tambos have returned. If you've not seen that fleet, take a look at it.
So, can we have a new question? Because I got no
Yeah.
to fucking talk about
Okay.
at this point.
All right.
Very
Okay. Okay. Alt history.
Oh, don't get me
The
started.
UK consolidates tank designs like they did with plain
Yes, Steve, it's-
parts. What are the likely results for cavalry and infantry
We need to continue.
tank?
That's spiteful.
I don't understand the question. The UK didn't consolidate plain parts. What's they talking about?
Tank
Really?
they did is stuff like
the question
manufacturing
again,
consolidation. I don't think they talk about manufacturing consolidation. Probably design consolidation.
We did. We standardised on the 2-pounder, 6-pounder, 17-pounder. We'd narrowed
Yeah, but
our
that's the
infantry-
only part you consolidate on, because you've got the thousands of versions of the Meadows engines. You've got
Okay,
the
that's
fact that
fair.
every version of the Cromwell has a different version of the Meteor.
All right, yeah, that's fair enough. There's not really basically there's no real design changes.
Yeah.
What you've got
Apparently,
is
it's like Foxo said.
it's just more
The
efficiency.
manufacturing
Yeah,
consolidation.
it's just more efficiency in production and
Because
variant
yeah,
control. It's
because-
not really a dramatic change in terms of designs of infantry and cavalry tanks.
It's more of it's more of their actual force deployments is different. Because if they're producing more tanks themselves, then you get the possibility of the UK needs less Shermans. And you don't have the issues with stuff like the
Royal
Dragoons,
Dragoons.
where it's a case of we want to go fast and we want to act like cavalry, but we've lost some Cromwells and now we have these Shermans that can't do it.
Just take the limiters off the Cromwells. I'm sure nothing will go wrong.
If you want to jump a canal.
There's been some discussion about this lately, Fleet. We've found some intriguing tales of Cromwells with the limiters removed.
Because
Okay.
have you ever wanted to go 94 kmh in a tank?
Your
Excuse me, what?
Your typical gunnery officer asks, all right, I'm going to put a timer on this. This is a proper question. What if Halsey, prior to the Second Battle of Guadalcanal, instead of Sodak and Washington, has 3 newly commissioned Baltimores? Would they be able to sink Hiroshima like IRL and probably other ships as well? Or another scenario, what if the 3 Baltimores were instead 2 Alaskas? It's not whether or not they can sink Hiroshima, it's whether or not all of them survive. Because
Yes, ABC.
because,
Cromwell goes zoom.
because it's important to bear in mind that South Dakota's upper works were utterly fucked by Kirishima working her over, and she was starting to take belt pens in the last salvos as Kirishima finally switched to AP. If you're dealing with Baltimore's, that semi-AP 14-inch is gonna go right through the armor and may just detonate inside the Baltimore's, which means that one Baltimore is definitely gonna go down. The question is, can Kirishima get 2 or all 3 of them before she dies?
All of them die. 'Cause it's not World of Warships. Cruisers don't react well to 16-inch guns.
14-inch guns again on Kirishima.
Oh yeah, I thought so. 14. I thought got mixed up.
And the difference is, it's not like the previous engagement where Hiei sank, because Hiei was engaged by a proper fleet. So it wasn't.
Because
just-
it was the torpedoes that finished Hiei, wasn't it?
She did take 8-inch belt penetrations, but there were a lot more cruisers there. It was a proper full night action. Whereas the second Battle of Guadalcanal is very much the US scraping up what it can get together in the region to go and stop the Japanese. It's like,
Yeah,
because like Sodak and Washington go in with only 4 destroyers as escort, whereas Kirishima rocks up with a few light cruisers and a full flotilla of Japanese destroyers as escort.
Yeah, Kirishima just goes bang, bang, bang. That just proves why you don't fuck with a battleship as a cruiser.
And again, same thing with the 2 Alaskas. Yeah, the Alaskas can kill Kirishima, but I think one's gonna die and the other one's gonna be badly damaged.
Alaska's more luck of the draw, to be honest.
I don't think the Alaskas have the belt to stop 14-inch semi-AP.
They do.
Yeah, But
It was,
yeah,
discussed,
it's
it
a
was
case
discussed
of
a while ago.
so they have the belt to be protected, not immune. But
It also depends on the
It's
range.
more of a
we're
case
talking
of-
here.
it's like
It's because the thing is, it's not
sort of
it's,
it's okay.
'cause the thing is,
14-inch HE is going to cripple a
it's, the thing is, no,
Baltimore.
it's-
It's not
it's-
going to cripple an Alaska.
yeah. This is the thing. Yeah. This is the thing. It's like, how does the like? It's like, before the second Alaska opens up, and also, is Lee in command of any of these ships? Because if he's not, they're not going to be as crack gunnery ships as Washington is. Which means that Kirishima may actually have a better time of it.
Because how I see it going is that it's Kirishima knocks out an Alaska and probably, after realizing what it is, switches to AP after crippling it with HE.
Yes, and that Alaska dies.
And because the
then-
Alaska's smaller, it can't stay afloat like
No.
South Dakota. Is it South Dakota could?
Look, the thing is, South Dakota's belt protected it because it wasn't holed until
Yeah,
until-
Alaska's isn't.
No.
And then it's going to become turned to because was it Alaska and Guam that existed?
No, none of the
Well,
Alaskas are around at this point. They've just been teleported
Yeah, but-
back.
Yeah, but which is the other Alaska? Alaska's name
It should be Guam.
is it Guam?
I think it's Guam.
Or is
What was
it?
the other one? Give me a second.
What's the
I
name of
thought
the
it-
other Alaska class?
It was just introduced in Azure Lane.
Guam. There we go.
Yeah.
I thought I had the idea that it was something like a Hawaii or something.
I think there
Oh,
was
no.
a ship, I think, going to be called Hawaii.
Yeah, because Hawaii
Yeah.
was a territory.
Yeah,
so there was gonna be
CB3.
yeah, there was going to be an Alaska called Hawaii, but she was never commissioned.
Guam, Hawaii, Philippines, Puerto Rico, and Samoa.
Okay.
Okay,
This
one
is
second.
gonna be-
I'm just going to nip something in the bud. Darth Sidious, there is going to be no Drakenifel tonight.
I think that was a live question. That was a live point ages ago, just saying stuff, but
Yeah, Drakenfell is kill.
no, hopefully not.
Not quite, but he's not coming. But yeah, when Alaska's gonna die because it just doesn't have the survivability that South Dakota has. But then
Those
Kirishima
are
against
fighting words, A10.
Guam.
It maybe
Because
I'm-
It's just going to depend on
what
who
I'm
hits
thinking-
first.
yeah.
It's
also
a
the case
battle
of-
cruiser fight.
It's also the classic argument of 2v1 here. Kirishima
it's
will
not-
have to separate a gun. She'll either focus on one, giving the other free reign, or split her fire between two and be less effective because of it.
Okay, because if we assume Alaska takes position of South Dakota, right? Given the amount of hits South Dakota took, that would be enough to put Alaska down, or at least permanently knock her out of the fight. Because those belt hits are going through on Alaska versus South
At the range
Dakota.
we're talking, yeah.
Which I don't think the Alaskas would have liked having 14-inch AP in their engineering spaces, but correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Well,
And
does
it's
any
a-
ship like 14-inch shells in its machinery spaces?
I know, but I don't know American ships very well. Outside of, well, intimately. That's the case. Then it's a 2v1. And it's a 1v1. And like any battlecruiser fight, it depends on who starts hitting and who hits where. Bigger battlecruisers, yeah. Yeah, because they both can fuck each other up if they hit. And that range is where hits are guaranteed. So,
Okay, so
Look.
let me have a look. Where?
as a truck, that's called illustrious.
What are you referring to, Narwhal, exactly?
Narwhals, narwhals.
You mean Noel?
Why are there so many memes about Drac being disappointed seeing, like, coming to ramblings? Drac likes ramblings.
Anyway, next question.
Come on, Blake, Schnell.
Oh, all right. Hold your horses or tits, depending on which you have. If you have neither, hold your legs.
What if they don't have legs, Fleet? Have you considered that?
Hold your toenails.
What if they're quad paraplegic?
Hold your nose.
How can you hold anything? You've got no arms.
I'll be back in a couple of
What if
minutes.
they spent too long out in the Antarctic and all of their extremities, including their nose, arms, and legs, are all gone?
I'll have to. I've got to quickly nip off
Go on.
2 minutes. But while I'm gone, you can answer this question. Technocratic Syndicalist asks, Project Star Wars was largely limited by the technology of its time. If current technology continues as it does with more energy-efficient energy weapons and better mastery of space-based propulsion and launcher platforms, will there be a point where a full-scale nuclear exchange could be stopped? In which case, what would replace it?
Yes.
Because largely nuclear weapons are what has made warfare comparatively less devastating between nuclear powers. Go nuts, boys! I'll be back in a tick.
I don't know enough about this to even comment.
I
This is
was
only
sort
up
of
to you.
engaging with this
I'm back.
in chat, and basically the answer is yes, because fundamentally a Star Wars style program is your best defense against against ballistic missiles, because that's the slowest point in its arc. It's going to be the easiest to target. If it's coming up, it's going really, really fast and it's hard to target. If it's going down, same thing. So if you target it at that point, at the highest point in its trajectory, with a satellite mounted with sufficiently powerful lasers, in fact, we could probably do it today. You've got the ballistic missile dead. It would require a crap ton of satellites for effective coverage, but that is a surmountable challenge. It just requires the correct amount of resources to be devoted to it. This is absolutely possible.
I would counter it doesn't kill the ballistic missile though, it just forces it to evolve.
I think what
would
we're
you do
I
if
think
lasers shooting down your missiles? You just protect your missiles against lasers, or give them enough time to start
the
re-entry.
best way to protect it would actually be to have your own satellites designed to shoot down the defense satellites. So we're pretty quickly going to see satellite warfare come in, but
This
it's
all sounds like
absolutely
a
possible to
combat
stop.
So what's just stopping someone from armoring a ballistic missile? Essentially, a heat shield that would.
How much
would
weight
charge
does
for-
that add? Because
I
that-
don't know.
that
How
could be
strong's the
really a
lasers?
factor.
Magic missile.
It's in the case of it doesn't have to defend the laser the missile forever. All it has to do is
Yeah,
its
lasers
contents
can be
get the
very,
altitude
very
and then for
powerful
Murph
to the
trigger.
point where, especially in space when you aren't dealing with atmospheric attenuation, and the amount of weight that would be required to defeat something like that, to armor against something like that, would be so much that the ballistic missile just can't work.
Yeah, because I'd counter the fact that you don't need it to defeat the laser. You need it to stay alive long enough for it to be able to initiate its MERV stage. And at that point, sure, you can maybe shoot down a couple of the projectiles.
Is, if I'm remembering correctly, Mirth Stage is a fair bit later than where we're talking, because we're talking at
it
the
depends
very,
on the missile.
very top of its ballistic arc.
It depends on the missile, because the US did have. It was a successor to Minuteman III that could do it at its pinnacle ballistics.
Okay. But that makes it actually even easier to target, because a smaller thing is going to be more vulnerable to the laser. It's just a question of, can it target them all in time? Which, given what we have with modern technology, it
Which
probably
at that point, you need.
So I think at some point we are going to see ballistic missiles. Like in this sort of scenario, ballistic missiles are eventually going to go the way of the dodo bird, and we're going to see the rods from God come in.
No, because it's like, sort of, ships can do some very. And what was the reply to ballistic missiles in ships? More ballistic missiles. Saturate an orbital defense grid, because or even just decoy ballistic missiles.
So we're I mean, any way we dice this, we're going to end up with satellites designed to kill other satellites. Is I think where this is actually going to end up.
Yeah, it's going to go both, because it's going to be, you're going to have missiles with ways to protect themselves, or tactics to protect the ballistic missile.
I don't
Because the
think
reasons
ballistic missiles able to protect themselves is going to be an option, just because of the tyranny of weight on rockets.
Yeah,
because you're going to spend an inordinate amount of fuel, and you're going to slow it down such that I didn't mean like attaching like little defense lasers to the missile Cindy,
itself or
you've
something.
just reinvented the rods from God, pretty much.
Yeah, because I was more talking about like you'd have attack patterns and decoy missiles and sort of ways of interfering with said satellite from targeting the missile. Because the reasons they don't exist yet is because Star Wars doesn't exist yet. Don't need if you haven't read the
We're
radar.
talking about a scenario where that does exist, or where that's being considered.
Yeah, and at that point, it's going to just be yet another arms race of satellite sensor systems versus missile defenses. The ballistic missile won't die.
It's an arms race, which I personally think is eventually going to wind up with either, as Cindy is saying, just putting the missiles in space to begin with and dropping them from satellites, or rods from God.
Not really, because rods from God. It just turned into the whole question of any satellite defense is a known quantity and can be planned around, and it's very hard to hide things up there.
Yes.
A ballistic missile has the advantage of like the Russian mobile systems or the American missile fields. You don't know how the enemy's going to attack until they attack. But you can see the pattern of the enemy defenses.
You can see the pattern of the defenses, but there's also it's it is a classic arms race, and Spiteful Ghost, that is what I'm talking about with the rods from God. The tungsten rods held by a satellite, it's literally just a kinetic explosion, basically.
Yeah. Basic case of sort of there'll be competitors to ballistic missiles, but you'll never kill off the ballistic missile. It's just it'll evolve, it'll adapt, but it'll still a ballistic missile because they're just too useful, even as ICBMs.
Well, it depends how good you are at eliminating your enemy's defensive screen.
But ballistic missiles are still used in naval warfare, despite that being the paradigm for the past 40 years? Since the invention of CIWS?
Nikistic Kia asks, alt history question. The battles of Verdun and Somme either didn't happen or didn't drain the German army significantly. How will these additional troops, as well as troops arriving from the east, affect the rest of the First World War, i.e., Germany still possessing a massive concentration of its veteran troops to fight within the West? Basically,
Nothing.
so the 1918 offensive isn't going to be more successful?
No, because the German tactics have been hard countered. The British have found the ultimate defense in trench warfare.
Not being
It's shit tons of artillery.
If that was the case, Foxo, the 1918 offensive wouldn't have made any gains at all.
Yeah, it wouldn't. It made gains until the British went, oh, hey, they're doing it slightly differently now. Well, just because one of the ways that the British countered it, especially towards, I think it's Cambrai, is just pre-range their own trenches. So when the Germans take the trenches, shell their own trenches. And that's what got a lot of the elite German troops killed, because they didn't. The Germans didn't anticipate the Royal Artillery shelling their own fortifications.
Haha. Wow. Okay, so basically no change. Iro.
Basically, yeah.
Iro Lego Man asks, Crash Bay victorious at River Plate, e.g. she's not hit in the fuel processor, and she goes after Ajax and Achilles after properly finishing Exeter. And then once she's done with that, she just toodles off to go somewhere else.
Happy renownizers.
Yeah, basically, Dunkirk and Strasbourg are on their way into the South Atlantic, so is Renown. You've got 3 fast capital ships, any one of which can kill her. And honestly, they can do it alone. So they can split up, with each one of them searching a certain part of the South Atlantic, and yeah, dead.
It's like,
it's a really short one, folks. That's what happens.
it's like
yeah.
sort of, what's his name? Her commander was scared of Renown for a reason, and he got unnerved when he found out Renown was coming for a reason.
Your Iro again. Okay, I'll keep that. So the Iro Legman has Washington. So it's not so much London that's the problem, because all London did was refine Washington. So it's Washington we need to talk about. So Washington being more generous to Japan. Basically, in order for Japan not to be pissed, you basically have to grant them a 5-5-4 rather than a 5-5-3. At least a 5.
At which point Japan just wrecks their own economy.
Well, no. Japan can build to 3-7-5 without killing themselves. They'll just do it slower.
It's just sustain it is going to be the issue.
Well, no, they can sustain it because... Well, no, they can sustain it because there'll be a building holiday afterwards.
Because I'm not talking about sustaining the Navy itself, because isn't, at that point, the IGN alone taking sort of like 20 to 30% of GDP to maintain?
No, it's not. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's not maintenance. That is the new construction.
It's construction.
Yeah,
Construction.
because Fox, so just put it in perspective, the Japanese want to build 4 classes of 4 capital ships simultaneously. That's what's killing the Japanese budget. Maintaining a fleet that's larger and building perhaps a single class of 4 new capital ships to bulk out the numbers. So, let's say adding an additional pair of Nagatos to... which I think is what Japan would have to accept. Or possibly a 3rd Nagato. They can do that.
I'm back at life.
Yeah. Japan would probably argue to have a single Amagi as a counterbalance to Hood. So they say, look, we can have the 2 Nagatos and we want Amagi as well. But that'll be the only real difference.
Would the
Yeah,
US
that
then argue,
point-
well, held up, can we not have it? Then, if you're getting an Amagi, we want a Lexington.
Yeah,
No,
and then
no.
the Royal Navy's going to go, hang on a second, we're losing a 16-inch capital ship for Hood. You're not getting an equivalent to her without us getting another one.
Well, no. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the thing is, the US are actually happier settling for 3 Colorados because that then sticks the standard battle line together, and they're happy with that.
Yeah.
Because again, they're confident that against Japan they've got the numbers. So yeah, Amagi's a problem, but they've got the numbers of capital ships to deal with her, and heck, the entire Japanese battle line, no matter what. And against the British, they're confident that, they're not really expecting to fight the British too early, and they're also hoping that these new Lexington conversions are going to do something for their, naval prowess, because they plan to have the world's best carriers, and they get them.
Because the main issue I see with this is if Japan tries to get an equivalent to Hood, the Royal Navy are going to go, no.
Well, the thing is, they're not.
If you get one, we get another one.
Well, no, they're not, because Amagi's specs were roughly known, and the British are like, yeah, you go build Amagi. She's slower than Hood, she's weaker armored than Hood, and Hood can kill her
Yeah,
from far
but-
outside.
She's fast enough, though, and has 10 16-inch guns.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but politically,
Yeah, I suspect if they're
'cause what the
doing
British
that, I
want-
suspect they would say, "Look, we'll scrap Hood, but we want a G3."
No.
no,
What
it's not
the
that.
G3
No.
We want
The
some sort of
G3 's
comparable
rejected
16-inch
at this point.
battleship.
Yeah.
Because what the Royal Navy wants, and this is when they fight and fight and fight and eventually fail to get because Japan backs down, and the treaty signed is, they want a ship equivalent to Hood, so that they have her Hood's role guaranteed filled.
So they can. So you like
The
like
Royal
they can
Navy
put
does not
Hood
like
into
the fact that
refit
Hood is a
and
single
have
ship
the sec-
who fulfills
Yeah.
a single role. Yeah, they want, like they've got with Nelson and Rodney, with Hood. Part of the reason Hood's in such bad condition at the start of World War II is because they haven't been able to do that. And the Royal Navy's not going to want a G3. They're going to want, hey, we want to build a revised Admiral class because we need something to work with Hood.
So yeah,
the-
was it the
two
L2?
revised admirals
Was it the L2 with the 4x218s?
instead of the Nelson.
I know they're not going to go for the Ks because the Ks are too big for the treaties. They're going to go
Well, to be fair,
like
Amagi is too
what
big
we're
for the
pushing
treaty.
for. Yeah, but they're going to push for. We want Hood with all of Hood's issues fixed, and it's stuff like being designed for the all or nothing armor scheme, and they're like, but. Bitch,
Yeah, Amagi's around 47,000 tons.
Which
Yeah,
is
because
Well,
actually
it's still
Hood's
lighter than
40.
Hood, but
Yeah, Hood's 51, isn't she, or something?
full loaded, yeah. 51,
Yeah.
54. Here's the thing, Foxo, I get what you're saying, but there's no reason why the same argument wouldn't also apply here, because the British would also go, well, the Japanese are in the same situation. Like, yes, they have the 4 Congos, but Amagi is much more than the 4 Congos will ever be.
Yeah.
So she's in the same situation.
Because the issue is that the British think the QEs as a role in protecting the fleet and sea control. They think they can deal with the Congos. Bitch. Maybe if our Congos get modernized. But
Well,
it's a
yeah.
case of
stats-wise, Amagi is not too dissimilar from Hood, and is still quite a significantly more potent force. Yes, it's only 30 knots, but still.
But
Yeah,
no,
but
she's
30
no,
knots?
No. The fact that she's got 2 additional guns does not make up for her pathetic armor. The problem
What
is
do you mean pathetic
But
armor?
she also has the
she's
got a
16-inch
10-inch
guns.
She's got a 10-inch belt,
that is
and that's
not
covered.
enough.
That's also protected.
That is
Yeah,
not
and
enough.
it's also protected by torpedo bulkheads.
That's still not enough to stop any of the guns. She's like, at least Hood has a chance of resisting guns fired at her.
because
Probably
remember,
not.
like Hood has up to 12 inches. The important part being up to because she's got a tapered armor belt.
Well, yeah, but so does Amagi. So we're
No, Amagi. Yeah, but
Amagi's
Amagi's
all or
overall
nothing,
bigger.
isn't she?
Yeah,
Amaki's all or
That's
nothing.
even worse.
9.8 inches across all of
That's
it.
even worse. Because
Yeah.
because yeah, Hood could have had thicker armor if she was all or nothing, but the thing is that when it comes to a
It's also
choice-
still a main belt sloped at 12 degrees, which isn't bad.
yeah, but Hood's is Hood's flat or Hood's sloped?
Hood's flat.
I'm still
Hood's an internal slab-sided belt.
I'm not confident that Amagi's sloped belt is going to be enough to defend.
Because Amagi's got
Yeah.
a sloped, Amagi's got the 10-inch sloped belt and an external torpedo bulkhead of another 3 inches.
I'm not confident that's going to be enough to stop even 14-inch shellfire.
I'm pretty
would,
reasonably confident it would
Because
stop
remember,
14 and resist
remember.
15.
Hood is rated against the 1542 Sarin guns. And Amaki's is similar, pretty much similar armor belt to Hood. Hers is thinner but angled. But it's more of a case of the Royal Navy and UK would be incredibly unhappy if Japan's allowed to make Amagi.
Well, the thing is, the whole point of this question is not whether or not the UK or America are happy with it. It's just the fact of what do the Japanese build. It's not. Yeah, the thing is, it's not whether or not the UK are happy with it. The whole point of the whole situation
It's a case of
is the treaty's been signed. What are the Japanese doing with the extra tonnage?
then
How
how are they building Amagi?
Imagine they
Yeah,
somehow
how are they building
politicized do
Amagi?
it. Yeah,
Because
'cause-
Amagi's in Hood's weight class and Hood's grandfathered. Like Hood's too big
what
for
you would
the
probably
treaties.
get is maybe a third Nagato.
That could work.
Yeah, at that point,
Yeah.
the Royal Navy grumbles. But
But
if
it's a case of it's a Nagato, at least not
yeah,
something
if-
bigger and better.
if the Japan gets a Hood equivalent, the Royal Navy are going to go, no, you're taking away one of our 16s to allow them to do that. Why the fuck would we be a part of this? Because that's not.
Even
Yeah,
Even if they tried to, just say, "Oh, can we have a toaster?" the Royal Navy would go, "No, not a chance."
You stick to the treaties because we're being forced to stick to treaty displacement.
So a third Nagato is definitely possible. With a lot of grumbling,
Nagato.
but still possible.
If you go for a Hood, the Royal Navy's going to we want another one. Because the Royal
Yeah,
Navy
if
really
everyone else-
wants another
anything
one.
I do
in-
suspect,
in
though, if
Hood's
everyone else is also
speed
getting
class.
new big battleships, the US might go, well, then can we have Colorado number 4? Or another high-power battleship as well. Issue with Tosa is Tosa is also in the same class. Yeah, the Tosa
Yeah,
class is what
it's-
cargo is. But that's
it's-
still
Yeah, it's going to be a warped over-
45,000
big.
tons
It's going to
of
be a
10,
warped over.
16-inch
it's-
guns.
You're going to get a third. I think the people are right. You're going to get a third warmed over Nagato.
Like, a
'Cause,
Nagato,
I mean,
perhaps it would be a Nagato redesign with, the 10 years almost of experience.
yeah,
Well,
it's going to
well,
be
well, no.
Nagato with all of Nagato's flaws fixed.
No, it's going to be at the time. They're gonna scrap everything else, do the conversions, and then they're going to
Also, I still thoroughly expect Japan to lie.
yeah, obviously,
So,
like
like
Yeah.
a new Nagato design that's been, yes, we swear, Gov, it is definitely this.
Although, so we're looking at the third Nagato being commissioned and built about around the same time the Nelsons are. So you're looking at a similar
Probably.
process for this third Nagato as was done for the Nelsons. So you're looking at a mid-20s commission.
Because honestly, I can see Japan delaying the Nagatos and redesigning them, this new Nagato,
The problem
when the British do the whole trick with the water tanks on Nelson.
the problem is Foxo is that it's too late in Mutsu's construction and Nagato's construction to do that.
Yeah, I mean that this third one, sorry. This third Nagato would be coming out. Going,
mid-20s.
would be like,
yeah.
oh hey, the Royal Navy cheated on the system technically.
Well, no,
We're going to use that as well.
No one was making that sort of noise. But yeah, they're just going to use it as well. But it's not going to be. They'll just do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because
Does Japan have the ability? Does Japan know how to build that same sort of water-based torpedo defense system?
Probably not.
Yes,
Also,
because it had been used on dreadnoughts earlier.
Also,
It's-
wasn't it more than just the water-based torpedo defense system? It was also just water in general.
No, it's literally, essentially, it's a flooded torpedo defense system that's designated as a water tank. Like,
Yeah,
it's literally a redesignated filled bulge. And filled bulges had been a thing since the start of the Super Dreadnoughts.
They just included a valve so they could designate it as a water tank. I get that. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
And now Japan
if
knows they can
Japan,
do that.
Japan have that same.
Yeah.
Did Japan have the water-filled bulges? Okay.
Well, also by that point, they were still also before this, they were still reasonably good allies with Britain. So it's quite plausible.
Yeah,
they might
I'm
have
just
learned
asking
from
if
British
that piece
shipbuilding.
of tech got transferred over.
If I remember, doesn't
I'm not sure
the
if it did.
because I know Tiger has the filled torpedo bulges. Well, she got filled TDS, which is kind of similar.
Okay.
So yes, another question because I feel like
Yeah,
They would
okay,
by the
so,
sounds of it, they would likely build a revised Nagato. Is the answer basically?
Okay,
Yeah.
next question.
honestly, a 16-inch hood would be blessed.
No, thank you. I'll take a G3.
No,
I
16-inch
rather-
hood.
I like G3, but there's other letter designation designs I prefer more.
It's hood with G3's guns is the good one.
Where is it? Where is it? Got it! Italo-German forces were able to capture and take control of the Suez Canal. They push on into Iraq and into
Britain's in
Iran.
a bit of trouble, admittedly, because of our canal. We needed that.
Well, to be fair, the canal was mainly being used for warship transit. All supplied.
Yeah, now those warships have to go around Africa.
But then again, they're just joining the rest of the Africa supply convoys that are doing that.
Was
Is it
Bismarck's
possible?
guns 50 cal?
Not
48.
Not sure.
Germans use a weird thing where they take also the calibers in longer than they're meant to.
But okay, so here's
Yes.
the important thing here is not only
But,
that the Suez Canal is a nice bonus, but the real prize is the Iraqi oil fields in the Middle East and the ability to push through the weak Iran and either into British India, which is unlikely, or up into the Caucasus through Iran.
it basically sounds like it's a total British defeat in all of North Africa.
Basically
Is what
thing
would have to
thing
happen.
yeah. If Suez has fallen, that means
Because
ship's already gone wrong.
If they haven't pushed through El Alamein throughout Alexandria, yeah. So it's not a highly fertile naval invasion or D-Day.
No.
Yeah, they have managed. They would to take Suez and such like that. They would have to push through.
Which means that
And so
basically British North Africa
the-
and British Africa in general is just
He turned
on the
the
way
Egyptian
out.
army in Egypt as well.
So, assuming they managed to do
Oh
all
god,
of
that's
that,
going to be
as we
hell for
said,
the Germans.
The Germans will
Because
probably
they're
not
just
like
gonna-
it, but they'll still go to try it. How would that affect what's it called British operations in the Mediterranean though, losing Alexandria?
Malta's going to become a massive fortified rock. Although it may
More than it already was, or
yes. Well, it's
The last stand of Cyprus. Because
You know-
what the fuck's going to happen to Cyprus?
Yeah, Cyprus is just
Vickers,
gonna die.
which just makes me have the terrible thought of, well, we've still got a couple of those 100-ton Vickers guns from, like 50, 60 years ago. They still
Well-
work, right?
Well, yeah, they do, and they were actually
Yeah, just lob 100-ton rounds down range.
They were manned during the Second World War. The thing is, Malta will likely be the 90. If let's assume this happens in 41. Let's assume because 41 is when Rommel has, just before his supplies are siphoned off prior to the invasion of Russia, is when Rommel's at his most deadly in terms of actually, because at that point the Italians have reached semi-competence from most of their divisions in North Africa. They're used to working with the Germans. They've got a good working relationship now, and also Rommel's at his strongest point. Because from that point on, while he does maintain strength, he's got close to parity with 8th Army in Africa. So at that point, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in 41. Which at that point basically makes Hitler go, okay, Rommel's advancing across the Middle East and seizing oil fields as he goes. It's Barbarossa time. Here we go.
And then still probably get his teeth kicked in there.
Well, no, thing is,
And then what you'll hear is that in the Reichstag, in the German logistics officers is a whole bunch of handgun shots,
Why?
as the logistics officers have to try and figure out how to get oil from the Middle East to Germany
I
without
think
a couple of decades to build infrastructure
I've got a
and the port facilities.
pretty good idea. It's called, hey, Turkey, you're surrounded on all sides. You're gonna let oil tankers go through your railway network, aren't you, Turkey? Nudge, nudge.
But it's stuff like the railway terminals. Because remember correctly, all the railway and export stuff for the Iraqi oil goes south towards Kuwait.
They can hook into the Hijaz railway, which
Yeah, but
which won't take too
sort of-
long.
Yeah, because remember, because most of the supply was barges down the Euphrates, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
Ah,
I'm not sure, but I also know that it's it would be fairly simple to hook because of the terrain you're building through. It would be very simple to hook a railway connection, because there was a railway line that ran from Turkey through Iraq into Saudi Arabia, so it would be fairly simple
So-
to hook up the infrastructure to make that work. Here's the
it
thing.
was low capacity though, wasn't it?
Well, yeah.
Oh, because that's their former Ottoman one, and that was low capacity.
Well, yes. Here's
And the demands of the
Here's the thing though. Not only was that railway built by the Germans, it's one thing to build a brand new railway from scratch. It is far easier to upgrade the capacity of an existing piece of railway infrastructure.
Also, they might be able to use tankers to a degree to at least help offset to begin with.
Italian tankers.
But-
Thing is, Italy will be able to also supply the just about not quite dead East Africa. You better believe there'll be gunboat battles up and down the Suez. But the main thing isn't that. I mean, yeah. So any amount of oil they can extract from Iraq and Iran will help. Well, also, no wait. By 1941, Iraq's going full. They're rebelling. The rebellion's begun. So Iraq's gonna join the Axis as a full German partner.
it's yeah. The issue isn't with that; it's infrastructure wise.
No, but like I said, they can make it work. They're not going to be molested by British forces in the region. There's no bases from which the RAF can realistically bomb them because there are no heavy bombers.
Cyprus.
Well, yes, but that'll last all of 5 seconds until the Italians and Germans go. So Cyprus, nice and isolated. How you doing?
Cyprus, Aden, Bahrain.
Yeah, those are going to be annihilated in fairly short order.
Also, remember the British forces were occupying and had orders to essentially pull a Saddam Hussein on the oil wells.
Yes, but that didn't stop the Saddam Hussein rebuilding them after they were destroyed, and also the Iraqis did also secure the oil fields in short order during the rebellion, which they will do this time as well.
Well, they took control of some of them. They took control of Northerns.
Which is still enough to help the German war machine function. And then, of course, the Iranians might actually take.
They'll be happy just to get whatever oil they can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just a case of
also-
it's
and-
too little. It's drops to stop a famine.
Yeah, but it's
Which
still-
I suppose.
Yeah. The thing is, Foxo, it's additional drops they didn't otherwise have. This is the thing.
Yeah.
Any additional oil is welcome. And then, of course, the question is, does Iran attempt to stand nobly by Britain, or does it go, hey, Germany, we're also scared of the fucking communists, just if we give you some of our oil, would you kindly, A, help us throw off British control of our oil fields, and B, help us take back some land we lost to the Russians?
Probably not.
Well, yeah.
The Shah of Iran at that point is militarily reliant on the UK to keep him in power and to stop a revolution.
Which may actually mean that a revolution occurs pro-German to basically, which would be kind of funny.
Right, a communist revolution.
Which in that case means the Germans are also going to keep the Shah in power and say, look, we'll now keep you in power if you supply oil to us instead. Basically trading one master for another.
Cindy, this isn't the base form of communism. This is the horrible love child of Sharia law and communist ideals. Communism. Yes. It's like imagine communism and fundamentalism had a baby.
People have been asking in event text to speech, so I'll answer this because I know that they're also listening to ramblings. If people really, really want to, we can do a post-ramblings game of some sort.
Open TTD.
Wow, that was a quick response. Where was I? Iraq.
Maybe.
Iraq,
Depends what happens.
Iraq.
Cindy, when you've seen the sheer horror of the internet and Reddit, then you know how just insane people can be. Please kill me.
Cindy, stop right now.
I'm not currently on my computer. What's he posting or talking?
Yes, comments about the Iranian 30s communism, where it's a hybridization of sort of Islamic law and communism, has given him an idea.
That sounds awful.
It is awful.
Okay, here's a funny one from Technocratic Syndicalist. Does Europe stand by and watch if the Paris Commune's belief of, oh, maybe the army won't shoot us, turn out to be true? Yes. Britain and...
It's just gonna be confused Europe noises.
First of all, if France falls to communist revolution, Germany's going to be like, that means they're never going to align with Britain, which means we're never going to be surrounded, which means we're basically quids in, boys.
Yeah.
Which means that...
How much is Germany gonna go, ooh, free Burgundy?
Well, no.
Because remember, the German Empire does lay claim to more of northern France than they take in the Second Franco-Prussian War.
The thing is, they're not going to. Basically, because the Communard will probably also go, yeah, we're going to keep paying the Germans so the army that's currently sat on northern France leaves.
Yeah. It's the case of, will they come back for it?
Probably not, because that would be too much of a land grab that the other great powers would have to go, no. Even though they're communists, no. Although
it would be a case of who would stop them? Because the other major land power that's not Russia, who's having one of its Russian moments, is fallen to anarchy.
Yeah. You're basically looking at a coalition of Austria, Italy, basically everyone against Germany if they try that. Britain providing the naval power, everyone else providing the land armies. Which would actually, which would actually be enough to make the Germans go, you know, we're not even gonna try, because yeah, the Germans might be able to win that war, but it would cost so much.
Isn't this the point where Hungary's doing the full Hungarian Kingdom of Hungary nationalism and uprising thing?
No, that was in the 1840s during the Springtime of Nations. That's long.
Okay, so this is after that then.
Oh yeah, this is 1871. This was literally in the aftermath of the Franco-Prussian War.
So it's the Bohemians that are doing it.
the Paris Commune moment.
Because what's his name? Oh god, who was the Chancellor of Austria-Hungary in the Napoleonic Wars?
Fuck.
The guy who said you can hold a country together at the arms of, on the point of a bayonet, but you can't sit on. You can do a lot of things with a bayonet, but you can't sit on it.
Yeah.
About authoritarianism. Metternich. Because Metternich is Austria-Hungary's collapsing internally at this point. So
your typical gunnery officer asks, alt history, what if Hitler and the Germans implemented von Rundstedt's limited offensive plan for the Battle of the Bulge rather than the long drive to Antwerp? How would the war in the Western Front be different? But in this case, bad weather prevented air support goes on longer than IRL, and the Germans committed a smaller force to surround the German army at Ardennes instead of driving at Antwerp. Why is it, gunnery officer, that whenever you ask these sort of questions, you favour it so heavily in the Germans' favour? Every time.
This doesn't tilt it in the Germans' favour, though.
I mean, they're going for pinning the Allies against the line of the River Meuse, using less troops.
Yeah, and this is just like... They're not drawing the shit tons of Allied forces that were moved in to contain the threat of the Bulge.
So,
It's just the case of the other armies are just going to continue pushing. And so Germany stabs a little bit, and then the lowlands and the Rhine continues to fall.
well, yeah, but here's the thing: they can actually once they've pinned the some Allied armies against the River Meuse and secured that as a defensive position, they then still have reserves left to go and do other things. So the war might last a little bit longer.
Because this is after the breakthrough into the lowlands, isn't it?
No.
Or this is during that?
Well, no, this is the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah. It's when the drive north started at this point?
I don't know. Um,
Yeah, Mike can correct me on that. Yeah, Christmas break, and then it's the drive north.
Basically, it's just it's the Battle of Bulge is not remembered as this big thing.
It's just yet another minor, very minor German victory. And it's a case of once the Allies land and get foothold, Germany can't win.
But would the Axis want to start another war, especially with Turkey? Turkey had quite good armed forces. Yeah, they were alright, but they were small. This is the army that's just swept across North Africa and also the Italians in the Balkans. Turkey can't stand against that. Turkey will be overrun in...
Turkey can't stand against that. But Turkey is, at this point, still very rural Anatolia.
I will also point out that this might lead to the hilarious sight of Yavuz, the ex-Goban, sailing with the Turkish fleet into exile and rendezvousing with her arch rival, the armored cruiser Georges Avarov, for operations in the Mediterranean, which would be hilarious.
No, you get the other cursed timeline. The Turkish fleet and the Soviet fleet and the Russian fleet uniting in the Black Sea.
No, the better option is to stay steam into the Med.
Because if the Med's falling, go to the Black Sea and you just have the old enemies coming together at last. Yeah, you'd guarantee a Soviet Turkey, but yeah, Germans could take Turkey, but I don't think they could hold it and attack the USSR.
Oh no, they could. They'd just do aggressive MacGuffins. Shh, we don't talk about what the Germans would do. Shh, we don't talk about it.
Because Turkey at this point is just Poland, but incredibly hot. You know how much issues the Germans had with holding Poland.
We don't talk about what they would do.
Turkish nationalists go burr. They'd be even more annoying on the internet. Anyway. Turkey, most important part of the Allies. Anyway, new question. I guess new question.
What if the Battle of Tsushima didn't happen? How would it have impacted the World War I in the Baltic where the Russians have more ships? Not majorly. The Russians had 4 dreadnoughts in the Baltic, plus 2 of their most modern pre-dreadnought battleships. Plus a bunch of very nice, fairly modern light and armored cruisers. I'm talking IRL. The addition of 4 pre-dreadnoughts, plus a bunch of old relics that are probably gone for scrap by that point. That's not going to...
I'm guessing they'd probably just, stay over there, because getting them back would be a pain.
Well, it's the question of how much better of condition is the Russian fleet, and if it hasn't lost its entire reason for existing at Tsushima.
It's in worse condition because the Russian fleet in World War I was a highly trained, potent force that was capable of some amazing feats of seamanship, and did so on multiple occasions. A modern German dreadnought was scared off by a rebuilt Borodino with increased elevation guns. The Yavuz ran screaming from a bunch of pre-dreadnoughts cosplaying as a dreadnought in the Black Sea, using a system that no other power attempted to build, and yet the Russians somehow got working well to have all their battleships firing on the same bearing, at the same set of coordinates, accurately. You've got the Ganguts being arguably some of the best ships built for operations in the Baltic, that had they met German dreadnoughts would likely have cleaned their chronometers.
Yeah. But I was more thinking of if the Russian Navy isn't seen as this dead weight or was failure by the Russian government and the Russian people.
It wasn't. It never was. Here's the thing. Like, there's a myth that the Russians disregarded their fleet, or thing is, the Battle of Tsushima and the Russo-Japanese War basically reinforced to the Tsar and the people of the Baltics, etc., why Russia needs a modern, effective navy. I mean, that happened in the Pacific. Can you imagine what would happen if that was allowed to happen in the Baltic or the Black Sea? More funding! That's why you see the...
I mean, I can see that.
No, that's what happened. That's what happened.
Yeah.
If Tsushima
But what I'm thinking of is,
doesn't happen...
would the Russian Navy be in a better position if it hadn't lost all of its prestige?
No, because the Russian Navy became a brutally meritocratic and thoroughly revisionist / revolutionary not revolutionary in the terms of communism, etc., but more in terms of, right, we need to learn, we need to adapt. What matters is your skill in command, not your fucking birth. The Russian Navy became brutally meritocratic in the aftermath of Tsushima.
Fair enough.
It's why you get people like Kolchak and etc. Competent, effective officers who aren't really aristocrats rising through the ranks prior to and during the First World War. Because after Tsushima, the Russian Navy just decided, fuck tradition. We're building ships that are modern and effective. We're getting officers that are good. Doesn't matter what rank you are. If you have a good idea, fucking say so.
Yeah. I quickly to answer most question. What I meant by that is, if they don't have the loss of Tsushima, if they don't lose at
Tsushima?
that,
Tsushima.
then you don't sort of get the breaking of the Tsar's sort of invulnerable image,
This is true.
which then sort of, would you get the revolutions you get before World War One without Tsushima?
No, you'd get reform, not revolution.
Yeah.
Reform perhaps forced on the Tsar by inside factors, but reform that the Tsar could portray to the people as him being the driver of / magnanimous in doing, even if in actuality it would be a forced evolution of the Russian government.
Which could lead to a whole mess of a new timeline.
That's a can of worms. A Russia that's sort of modernizing and reforming is a different beast to one that's slid backwards into absolutionism.
Well, no, Russia didn't slide backwards into absolutism, it just wasn't advancing fast enough.
After, because before World War One, you have like all the
Russia was advancing...
kind of semi-purged it. Purges.
The problem is that Russia was advancing industrially and economically. It wasn't advancing socially. The problem that
And
Russia had...
politically.
Yeah, the problem that Russia had that none of the other great powers of Europe did is that they'd all advanced socially and politically in addition to economically and industrially. Russia was advancing economically and industrially, but wasn't making the requisite social and political advances.
Yeah, because to agree with Cindy, I still think I don't think they just did the Saddam's not fucked. It's just a case of a Russia that's not gone essentially ultra authoritarian in like the last decades of the Tsar.
The thing is, Foxo.
Well,
thing is,
Were
Foxo.
Less likely to fall to anarchy fully.
No, Foxo. It's the opposite. The Russian. If you don't shake the Tsar, you've probably got a weirdly more authoritarian Russia, but one that's more stable. It's the fact is if you shake the authority of the Tsar and start the reforms before basically Nicholas is ready to actually think about the actual consequences and do it properly, which is what happened after the Russo-Japanese War, that you get the unstable Tsardom. If you have an unshaken Tsar, that's where you have a stable Tsardom. It's more authoritarian, but it's more stable. Utopia Gunnery asks, straight up gun battle, Hosh versus Long Beach, who wins? Hosh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Long Beach.
Hosh.
Long Beach.
Hosh.
Which Long Beach are we talking here?
No, I'm talking about the island itself.
Right.
Long Beach has two 5-inch guns, and they're not even... and they're not even the, and she can't even pull the whole modern guided missile ship, where she can sit at 20 miles and fire those guns at long range. Hosh can actually, I mean, all Long Beach can do is run. If she's not using missiles, all Long Beach can do is run. Admittedly, she can run
But she
further,
doesn't need to run. She can do a swift walk.
But the point still stands. Hosh, Hosh just wins. If Long Beach commits, Hosh wins.
Well,
Simple as that.
Hosh,
Okay,
I'm talking about the modern Long Beach,
What do you mean, the modern Long Beach? The missile cruiser?
like the missile cruiser.
Yes, the box. Long Beach,
Cube.
I still say Long Beach.
Long Beach can run, but she can't fight.
Well, she can. She's got radar guided 5-inch.
Yeah, but that's not going to work.
Like pre-dreadnoughts burn incredibly well.
Right, I have a question for the audience. If, and the other host panelists, I guess, if we were to do... That's CV6, obviously. Fucking, come on, I'm not that biased. If we were to do some form of video gaming extravaganza after this, what would people want?
Anything but
Open
Hoi.
TTD.
Get OTTD.
Team Fortress 2.
God damn it, Guy. COH, Open TTD, Hoi, or Outlaw.
Guy, incredibly
or
based.
Autonauts. I don't know what Autonauts is, Cindy. Never heard of it.
I think that's a good point, Cvix. I need to, at some point, I need to get back to crushing fleet in Empire at War.
That's happening this Wednesday when I get back to university. We'll have Empire at War Wednesdays as normal. I've still got
Okay.
to save.
Good. The Empire can win with their newly constructed Death Star and Eclipse.
Oh yeah, we've got an Avery gang
Oh yes.
here, so
Competitive rule the waves. I wish that was a thing, but it sadly is not.
from the depths, no, not from the depths. Ultimate Admiral
Among
Dreadnoughts, who
Us.
can create the most cursed ship imaginable.
CK2, I don't have that. I have CK3, but I've never really played it. Nebulous Fleet Command, I have not played it too well. KSP, I don't have that installed.
Wasn't there actually some discussion about doing a Dry.KSP server at one point?
Yeah, I was going to do it, and then it sort of petered out. I'm still planning on getting that going.
KSP, yes, a manned guided missile simulator.
No, like genuinely, there was some discussion about using the World War Kerbal mod and such, and like having multiple factions form and such.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
Yes.
the plan.
Basically, who can get to space and who also, will blow up the enemy first?
Yeah, it's a case if you put a Kerbal on the end of a Saturn V and you send him at the hostile hangar.
Stellaris,
What, just send Jebediah?
Stellaris could work, but I don't really feel like putting together a mod set. Vicky 3 could work. I would enjoy bashing.
Stellaris has had some
Open
updates recently, so probably not the best
TTD.
idea. Anyway.
Hoi 4 I've done to death, so I'd rather not. Victoria 3 could be ideal. Something else that... something
Avarion?
I do
Yeah,
have...
we don't have a server.
I'm still a Vorioned out.
I don't have Vicky. I have Vicky 2, but I don't want to go through the process of setting up a VPN and doing all that, and then creating a fucking server and having everyone download a certain thing and then do that.
It sounds like
I don't mind it.
OpenTTD is one though.
Yeah, I don't mind if you all have to send me your IP addresses to play Vicky 2 multiplayer, because you have to do that, which is
Foxo,
why we're not doing it.
yeah, Foxo, no, I don't want you knowing where I live.
Oh dearie, I already know where everyone lives.
Foxo, you're already banging away at Dragon. I don't need you banging away at anyone else.
Well, yeah, I won't let them.
Boxo, you know where I work.
Yeah? 27 North Parker Drive.
As amusing as that would be,
No.
Salty, chess would be
Yeah. No, even better,
be amusing, but problematic.
we have a
Honestly-
massive game of Gartic phone.
One of we could do
Oh.
phone. And the thing is, do you want to know the funniest thing? You know that Krunker.
That's a real game.
Yeah. Do you know Krunker we used to play? That's a
What now?
Discord. That's a Discord activity now. That
A what
FPS
now?
we used to play. That
Oh.
blocky FPS we used to play. That's now a Discord activity, which is fantastic.
Yeah, but most of the stuff you
So
have to pay
discount
for, though.
Roblox.
Like we took a look at that a while ago, and it was just so much pay for stuff.
What you mean, Krunker on Discord?
We could always play Pokemon.
Right, I
Pokemon
tell you
Showdown
what,
could be
Uh,
all those.
Hey.
Because
okay,
Pokemon
all those-
Fusion-
TDD
I-
does seem to be the biggest suggestion.
I just want to keep answering questions.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
'Cause
We,
that
we
was
can do
fun.
this later.
That's
Yeah, we
no,
were,
it's
like-
way too good, and also that's in California. I live in the UK.
We were getting some good questions.
well. I think. it's
Yes, I
alright.
do wish I had a house like that. And then I'd cry when I had to pay tax on it.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. For those of you on the YouTubes who've been watching along, I appreciate you all watching me make a fool of myself. Thank you very